Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome, Arvanauts. Welcome, everybody, to a Tuesday stream. It is August 23rd, 2022, in the year of our Lord, etc., etc., and it is my great pleasure to welcome everybody to day 43 of Adventures in Middle-earth, Erebor Adventures, Sleeping Dragons Lie. I am very excited to get back into this. It has been a while since we've been able to play because August is a thing with Gen Con and everything else, as you folks know, and still going to be a little bit up in the air schedule-wise over the next week or so, but as of next week, and certainly once we get into September, we will have settled down again and we should be back into normal schedules. But July and August is the summer in general, but July and August in particular are always hairy in terms of trying to schedule it. I also apologize that we're getting started a little late today. I had major audio problems. I think one of my mic cables is basically shot, so I've ordered new ones, but it means that there was some buzzing that I couldn't get rid of, and it was like, it wasn't just sort of in the background. It was just like one of those deals. And I was like, I don't think anyone wants to hear me, lore mastering today being like, so you see the burned orc, the dragon, I figured that no one would want that. So I have now got it into something semi-functional, but I apologize. However, we will try to make up for lost time by getting into our session for today quickly. Before I do that, quick reminder about ways to support the stream. If you haven't done so already, please follow the channel. Please check out our YouTube channel, !ArvTube, and please do subscribe to us over there. It's free to do that, but we continue to try to build those numbers, and they do help not only the channel, but of course they help you as well because you get all the new content that we post, including stuff like, for those of you who may have missed not one but two sessions yesterday, one that was involved with Bag of Giving with Ironsworn Starforge last night. That was fun. And then also with the GM turn for Valorword Court of Blades, our Speculate event. So !ArvTube. Yeah, the novelization of The Fly. I guess it could work. That's true. It would be a little limited, though, I feel like. I don't think I could just be an all the fly all the time channel. !ArvCourt is our Discord channel. Please hang out with us in between streams. It's been lovely to see some of the discussions going on in the many channels in the Discord. I'd love to see that, so definitely join us there. And of course, !ArvTweets for my Twitter, where I will always post when I'm going live and things like that. And arvanelleron.com is the website for all of that. I'm going to be updating a couple of my last thing before the end of the summer. I went through a lot of office stuff yesterday, and I have a little more of that I have to do over the course of this week. And then when those things are done, and early next week, then I will pretty much have done everything I need to do except getting my websites back up to speed and getting things back up and functional. And then I will have done the stuff I wanted to do during the course of the summer, pretty much, as far as this is concerned. So I'm glad that we're finally getting there. It took me about 8-10 years to move into my last place fully, just before we ended up moving out of it. So I'm happy that this time it's going to take us more like a year to be fully moved into this place. So I feel like we've really ramped up our speed. So we will see. Well, thank you, Effect Life. Yeah, I think I managed to work out most of it. It's one of those things that like don't breathe on anything the wrong way or it'll kind of go out. So but as I say, I have new cables on the way. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So we will address that as of Friday. But financially, !ArvTreon. We are sitting at 21 patrons, $192 per month. We have dropped slightly with that because we had a couple of people that had to pull back in terms of support. And so any support that people can give over on the Patreon, remember, you can get a custom, you can get a character background written for you. You can get an epic poem written about you. You can get one of my band's albums. You can get you can even get a writing critique, a professional writing critique if you support at a high enough level. So there are a lot of different things that you can get at that Patreon, which you can't necessarily get through subbing. So please, that's why I tried to make it so they don't overlap. Plus, of course, inspirations to help the players, although you can also get inspirations by subbing to the channel. And many people have subbed and resubbed and gift subbed lately. So I am very grateful for that. So thank you all for doing that. Yeah, you can do that as well. Sub to the channel. That is always appreciated. On the publishing side, !Icarus. Yeah, exactly. It's one of those deals where you're just like, don't touch it. !Icarus is my graphic novel, award-winning graphic novel from the award-winning Athos Arts. Library is Tales and Tomes from the Forbidden Library. That's my 5e adventure and sourcebook from Alligator Alley Entertainment. And of course, let's see, Greyshade, of course, which is my latest novel. May 31st, Greyshade came out, and Greyshade will link you to the backer kit, where if you missed the Kickstarter, you can now get copies of, you can pre-order copies of Renegade and Heretic, the two sequels to Greyshade. Greyshade. And of course, you can pre-order the 5e RPG, which is going to be coming out next year with Brandon O'Brien as the lead writer on that, and then other things, Trend's audiobook and awesome stuff like that. So there's a lot of cool stuff that you will want to get, and you can do that through Greyshade. It's going to be awesome. Yeah, longer than the last time. It's because I'm trying to put together, you know why? Because I'm always getting, in my mind, I'm like, not Greyshade KS, that's not a thing anymore. Now it's just Greyshade. So I have to just get it in my head that it's Greyshade. But anyway, so please support those things. And then, of course, as always, exclamation point BLM, Black Lives Matter. Very important to affirm and assert the significance and importance of Black lives. It is exceedingly important to do that. Exclamation point Help Now is the World Health Organization page on suicide prevention. As I always say, it is very important to reach out to others when you need help and to reach out to others when they need help as well. And exclamation point Ukraine, Ukraine, as the Ukrainians continue to fight bravely and effectively. Yay, that's awesome, Effect Life, I'm glad. Bravely and effectively against an illegal and illegitimate and devastating war. This is a chance for us to help stand together with them and help the community as a whole by typing in that link and by supporting them at the links you'll find there. So, quick note on schedule. We've got Erebor Adventures going on now, and then at 4:15 p.m. Eastern, I'll be over on GOG.com's Twitch channel for more D&D with GOG Ghosts of Saltmarsh. That's going to be awesome times. And then this evening, we have got the conclusion of the Our Vocalists with Purgatory. You will definitely want to be here for that. This is going to be the conclusion of the really, really fun game Purgatory. It's also going to be the last that you're going to hear from Little Arv for a while, because Little Arv is going back to school next week. She was complaining bitterly about the early time that she's going to have to be waking up for school. So she's doing that next week. So this tonight is the last time she can stay up late to do our vocalist stuff this summer. So if you want to get your last little dose of Little Arv for a bit, now is the chance to be able to jump on board. That will be happening tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. Then we'll be off Wednesday, Thursday, and then I'll be back on Friday. As a quick reminder, Friday night, we have got special events happening. It's going to be with myself, with Jordan, Indiana Gonzalez, Indy, and with Zach Clay. And we have no idea yet what exactly we're going to be playing Friday night, but it's going to be something fun, which we'll stream. And then Saturday, we have got a stream during the day of a musical event. It will feature both myself and Zach in one set, and then Indy in the other. And then we'll probably be doing something Saturday night as well, some kind of fun streaming thing Saturday night. Also, don't yet know what it is, but something. So that is to be determined. That's happening tonight. That's happening Saturday night, I beg your pardon. And then they will all gradually make their ways back home, and I will get ready for the conclusion of what happens next. So that's what we're looking at. But right now, what we've got going on is some Erebor Adventures. And so I am going to unmute myself and apologize, as always, unreservedly to the fine players who I probably interrupted some fascinating conversation of. Then I'm going to unmute them. And last but certainly not least, I'm going to head over to reveal to you the crew of the Anduinauts. They are here and they are prepared to face a dragon immediately. Literally, we ended with a dragon's mouth poised over Bolo.
Initiative.
No, wait, God. No, that's not totally true yet. First, we have to get to the dragon. It's good to see all these folks. I will start with the gentleman at the top left of the squares. It's good to see you, Trent. I will point out I am wearing a new shirt, which I picked up at Gen Con, and it says, "What do we say to the god of death? 20. Not today," is literally what it says. What do we say to the god of death? Not today. So even though this is too big for me, but they didn't have a smaller version, I'm like, I don't care. I need to get it anyway. So
there's a BTS song called "Not Today," and I always think of that now when I think of that phrase.
Yeah, not today. Anyway, so I'm hoping that will be of inspiration to the players today. Trent, how you doing? How's life in the universe with you and who you're playing, etc.?
Well, from what I just heard, we all get inspiration. Right?
I hope it will serve as inspiration.
And we're also going to be cursed with ones for the entire.
Yeah, I know. The god of death is like, really? Here we go. You know, like.
And today, and today, and today. What was the question?
I was asking how you were doing and who you're playing.
Oh, right, yeah. How are things going? Well, it's a day for many things, really. I am almost getting into that manic phase when you haven't had enough sleep, but it doesn't really hit me as hard as it used to when I was in the Army. So I'm kind of like, yeah, hey, and it just sort of spikes. It's like a heartbeat. Anyway,
Yeah.
so the game will be interesting. But also, today is the 8th anniversary of the Eurofurence, which is a furry convention that's going on in Berlin this coming weekend. So a lot of my friends are heading there. And when there, they have a puppet show called the Paw Pet Show. And 8 years ago today, we did, or they did, a show called Keepers of the Light. And I did the voice of Brother Fireheart, who was a fox in that thing.
Okay.
And that's the 8th anniversary today. And also the 1st anniversary last year today, I did the voice of August in the Rapture Lake animation that Zachariah Hansen did on YouTube. And I quote about those on.
Yeah, I remember that last one. Yeah, obviously I didn't know you 8 years ago, but I remember this
really?
one.
God, it feels like
it does feel like that, but I don't think so. I think
it was 2014, so it was close.
Oh God, it was. Wow.
Yeah.
Jesus, I guess that's right. Yeah. God, man, what even is time?
I don't know. It's a soup.
When not being tired like a EKG or the equivalent, and so on, who are you playing today?
You were about to say where people are going to see me.
Where are people going to see you? But they're going to see you here as you tell them who you're
next
playing.
Month.
Yeah.
Who am I playing? I am playing Thane Tonybear, the Hearthmender, dwarf friend, king of the
King?
I was gonna say, I'm like, I missed the memo on this. Like, king of the bears. Like,
no, that's Bjorn.
And the honeymaker.
Yeah, I was gonna say, king of the honeycakes.
Most honeymakers don't have kings, but anyway, they have queens. There's not so much kings. Anyway, right, and he is a Beorning scholar. He is the healer of the party, and generally the measuring stick by which we figure out whether things are dreams or not.
Yes, that's true. You are the dream measurer. That's true.
The dream measurer. That's a really cool title. I like
it's another wonderful endorsement to go watch Sandman. Not right now, but when we're done with this.
Yes.
Oh my God, yes, go watch that.
Later on, you should do that. And
are we going down or over?
We're gonna go. I'm gonna go over quick. Just so I can mention
that way.
Yeah. So
Mal's not over there. Mal's over here.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm gonna zigzag, I guess. But I will say, yes, that's right, Echo. It was the birthday of Kilobyte yesterday, who passed away some years ago now. And yeah, no, different. Yeah, that was it was Kilobyte was, I guess that was was it 3 years ago now?
Jesus.
Or 2 years ago? I meant 3.
It was 2.
I think it was 2 or 3 years ago.
I think it was
pandemic, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, it was because we've done. It probably would have been 2.5 at least, though, because last 2 years I think were both. It had to be 2, at least 3, because the last 2 years, because we did the Juvenile Diabetes Foundation the year that he passed away, so the last 2 years were back to Damon Runyon. So anyway, it was 2020. Okay, yeah. So I guess it was 2 all right. So 2.5 because it was early in 2020 that he passed away. Anyway, remembered with fondness, of course. So Tari is not with us in the group today. We'll be back hopefully next month.
Right here.
Yeah, right in our hearts. And has very good reasons, but she'll be back with us hopefully soon. But that, of course, is Tari Toons, our professional cartoonist and dear friend. But moving right along, someone who is also a dear friend and is with us now and wearing a shirt of which Echo Alpha approves, the PlayStation shirt, and that is Brad Bollier. Yes, we go down to, like I said, zigzag. I'm doing it Z.
Well, it's reversed on my screen.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Brad's still below me, but Mal's over there.
That's right.
He is, but it's on the other side.
I see. Yeah, Tawny is top left, and mine.
I usually end with Amal because the column, if I do the column side, Amal's usually just happens to be where the river is. So
she is the foundation.
The foundation of stone. But you like what I did there, don't you? But it's good to see Brad. Brad, how are you doing? How's life in the universe? It was good to see Brad in person, as I got to see a few weeks ago.
Yeah, just briefly, unfortunately. But,
yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So how are you doing, and who are you playing?
Good. I've been talking a fair bit about over the months finishing this first book of this new series that I've been working on, and I did finish it, and I'm working on like the third draft at this point. But I'm reaching this like critical stage where I'm ready to turn it in for the first time.
Right.
And it's like, it's always nervous making, to like give the baby over, and you feel, I know it's not ready, but I have to like get it over just to start getting some thoughts on the,
Yeah.
the structural edits and that sort of thing. So, so that's going on in the writing world. In the gaming world, since we're talking about PlayStation, I play a fair bit of like pretty big complex role-playing stuff. I play a little bit Overwatch, but I recently picked up Stray, which I highly recommend. Spending time as like a little cat exploring a cyber city and trying to find its way out, and helping some cyber dudes along the way. It's a real palate cleanser sort of game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not very long, right? It's not super long.
Yeah, it's some people can do it in 5 hours. I finished in like 8 or 9, something like that. So it's pretty short. But I liken it to like Journey.
Yep, such a good game, Journey.
I love that game. Where it's pretty short, but it's like, and Gris, Gris, is a similar-ish game, which I just loved. Pretty short, but like very transportive. It really brings you to a new place, and it's pretty non-violent, non-confrontational and stuff, and that's nice too, to just get away from, say, like God of War, Ragnarok, which I loved.
But was not a palate cleanser.
But like it's super bloody, right?
Yeah,
Very violent and stuff, and throughout the entire thing, great story, great execution, but still, I need other games to sort of leaven that. So doing that stuff, that was fun. And today I am playing Bolabras Took, a now more worldly wise hobbit treasure hunter, who is looking forward to getting a step closer to the dragon.
That's right. And we will see. You're closing in. I mean, it's not like you folks haven't been doing things, picking up people and so on along the way.
Burned it's a long road.
It is a long road
to the dragon.
It is very much a long road. And I should have asked this to everyone. Have you seen the latest trailer, which dropped, I think, today, of the Rings of Power? Okay. Nope. It is, I'm still having a hard time getting a feel for it, because it feels to me very much like, let's take a clip and then say something sounding important, set to music, and then have some awesome battle scene. So I can't really get a feel for what's going on in the story yet at all. And it's all,
and they may be drawing on those battle scenes just to have something exciting in the trailer,
Right.
I'm pulling the Game of Thrones watchers, that kind of thing.
I will keep an open mind, and I'm hoping for the best. And it's also getting mixed up with the people who are just like, but Tolkien didn't have people of color in his books, which is people who don't read Tolkien and have no idea what they're talking about. But anyway, I was curious. I should have asked that before, whether you had a chance to see that. So I'll ask Tren quickly, and then I'll go down to Amal. Tren, have you seen the latest Rings of Power trailer that just dropped within the last day or so, I would say, for the Amazon's new Lord of the Rings-y thing?
Is that the one where like we're gonna find a land for ourselves?
It was it's like 2 minutes long. It's pretty long, actually. And it's like,
see, like our first female dwarf that I think.
There's a whole section of like, there's what looks like an elf being overwhelmed by orcs. That's the first time I had seen that in any trailer. And then there was this whole clip about halflings more than any other creature in Middle Earth can stay true to each other. That was new in this one. So okay. Maybe. Yeah. I was just curious. Because, obviously we're kind of a Lord of the Rings crew. So and I know, believe it or not. And I'm gonna have an announcement for these folks actually in just a moment too about future things.
We're level 12.
Moving on. Yes, no, that's not the answer. Moving on to Amal. It is good to see you as well, Amal. I hope all is well. He said with a wink and a smile to green room discussions. But I hope you're doing okay. And how are you, and who are you playing?
I am doing very well in that this last week, actually, I didn't bring any of this up in the discussion in the green room. I spent the whole last week in the Eastern Townships, which is like this place to the east of Montreal, like an hour east of Montreal, and I spent that time with Max Gladstone and his family. So we actually got to hang out together. Max Gladstone being my co-author on Time War. I'm gonna get a little misty to say this. This was our first time seeing each other in 3 years, and he's one of my absolute dearest friends, and getting to hang out. We rented this big, beautiful house in Does anyone read Louise Penny mysteries? Anyway, she like sets all of her stuff in the Eastern Townships, and this is apparently her hometown, or where she lived. I don't know. We did not see her, but this big beautiful house near Lake Brome, and there was a pool, and it was gigantic, and the house itself was beautiful, had a great kitchen, and so the whole week passed in this warm, lovely blur of like just making a lot of food, eating a lot of food, spending a lot of time in the pool, watching ridiculous television from several years ago. And in fact, if anyone is really into funny musicals, I can highly recommend Gallivant, which apparently played on ABC like 6 years ago or something. But it was new to me. And I really, really loved it. But mostly it was just absolutely lovely. And we also got to go to Montreal for a day and signed a lot of books together. So there are now double signed copies of This Is How You Lose the Time War in 2 bookstores in Canada, at Argo Bookshop in Montreal and at Perfect Books in Ottawa, because I literally said to Perfect Books, hey, do you want to like just give me a box of books to take to the Eastern Townships, get Max to sign them and bring them back? And we did that. So I'm just delighted that we could make that happen after like the fiasco of attempting to cross the border in December. So this was really, really, really lovely and restorative and exactly what I needed. And it was fantastic. It was just a really beautiful time. And so yesterday I was a little sad. We just got back.
The letdown. Yep.
We got back on Sunday afternoon. Like everyone I know who's been to Gen Con and stuff has been like, it's funny, like I've been kind of seeing this weird pattern among all of my friends as well, who are like, oh, I've got con crash, and I'm like, I too have con crash, sort of. My voice is still croaky. This happens to me every single time I go to a con. Usually a combination of like the hotel air conditioning and the fact that I will not stop talking, like that I'm just in a constant stream of conversation with people for several days running. And I started getting con voice on this trip just because I could not stop talking to my friends who I had missed so long. So that was really, really, really great. And now I will have a low husky voice with which to voice the river.
That'll be perfect for that. Can I note, by the way, that the most Canadian trip of all time is one that involves going to the Eastern Townships and going to Lake Brome, and like just like everything. I was just like, yes, and we rode moose there, and I was just like, right, of course. Canada. I love it. I immediately had it in my mind as an image. Who are you playing today? Speaking of the person you're voicing.
I'm playing this person and this person, sort of. So yes, I'm playing the River, who is a fighty bard. She has these 2 axes, and she's a warden. She's a woodsman of Roscobel. And this is her faithful hound of Mirkwood Stone, who is the most goodest boy, and they fight crime, and by crime I mean, yeah,
bad dragons.
What I mean,
bad dragons, exactly. It's a whole noir setup with Stone wearing the fedora.
Oh my God, can we do that? Can we do that? Can we have
a noir episode of?
I want a noir episode.
Listen. Moonlighting used to do this all the time. Moonlighting back in the 80s would do this stuff where they would have all these like alternate universe shows or whatever, and like having a noir thing where Stone wears the fedora and just like and we get the inner voice of Stone for just like it was a dark day in the waste.
We're looking for the Maltese dragon.
I'm just imagining like Bolo being the centerpiece of this, basically. Bolo at the broken mug.
Yeah. The battered mug. Can you imagine? Yeah, that's true.
It's raining. There's lightning in the distance.
Yeah.
It was a long, slow, darkened dale, if there ever was any other kind.
Yeah, somebody like raises their collar against the battering rain in silhouette.
Lightning crashes as they walk in.
The battered mug and goes, "I'm looking for Bolo." Bolobras took.
And in walks this big guy, big as a mountain, big as, and then like the silhouette comes to shows Tawny. Like, I also love the idea that Tawny's the only one who's not in this noir world, right? So Tawny's just like, what's wrong with all of you? Everyone's all saying he didn't understand the darkness of Dale the way I did. You know, like,
He's in color and everybody else is in black and white.
yeah.
Right.
Oh man, this is the best.
Bolo is like puffing on a pipe.
Yeah,
That's
right.
exactly where I was about to go.
Yeah.
It's like he's sitting there, he's like, but I had eggs on. I couldn't go out there and talk to them just yet.
Arundel, of
Yeah.
all the taverns in Erebor, she had to walk into mine.
Yeah.
looking at Tawny and
And Tari's
going,
the femme fatale that walks in.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, she had legs that did not go very far. Were actually very short.
She had legs that went all the way to the floor.
From
so
not
that she
very
could
high up
stand.
the floor.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Oh my goodness.
why are we not? Can we just do that right now?
I know, just
instead
do
of
noir.
fighting a dragon?
Well, I can't
want-
do that, but I will say,
Yes, you can.
I mean, I could do anything I
I
want, I
believe
guess.
you would be up to the challenge.
I could do anything I want. I just have to.
Inspire,
I'll tell you right
inspire.
now, if I did that, I'd have to be like, okay, we need like bring in 150 people to watch our noir adventure that I have. No, I mean, technically, this whole thing has been noir. Really, it's just it's more and more dark every step you go.
Yeah, because
Um,
we
you know.
go in the waste. There's like no color.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But I will say one thing I do want to mention is that I have been in discussion with Free League since we last met. Free League has officially announced their new Lord of the Rings 5e system, the second edition, basically, of what used to be called, well, for them, used to be called Adventures of Middle-earth, and they are calling it the Lord of the Rings role-playing. Is the name of their new system and is based on 5e. I am going to be taking a look at it. Of course, they are sponsoring us in that new campaign with funding and money for overlays and videos and all that stuff. But the thing that I want to mention to the party is as we go through this transition, and we're looking at probably late Q4 of this year or early Q1 of next year is when the process looks like it'll be there. But it looks like the first of the adventures in the areas that they're going to be looking at will not be in Wilderland, where we have spent most of our campaign, but will be west of the Misty Mountains in Eriador and that area, so Rivendell and west. And the first set of adventures that they have are the Shire Adventures, which are things about like helping Farmer Maggot and stuff like this. But again, obviously with a larger story that kind of builds as a part of it, as this has been. So I don't entirely know yet how I'm going to transition this. There is a world in which we may alternate into a group of new characters for that, or Bolo may be a holdover character. I'll talk with the players about it and we'll see how it all goes. And this is not going to apply for a few months anyway, because as I said, it's not out yet. But I have talked to them. I spoke to them at Gen Con and started talking to them more about other sorts of those things. And the first two major adventure sequences they'll have, one is Shire Adventures, and then the second one is called, I believe, the Realm of Ruin, which is basically like all to the south and west, almost to the fringe areas to the south of Eriador and places like that, which is going to be neat. So again, there is so much room. If anything, all of this interest in Lord of the Rings has proven for folks over the last 20 years plus, counting the movies, is just how big and rich this world is, that isn't just about Bilbo going to the Lonely Mountain or about, Frodo and company going to Mordor. There's so much that exists within this world. Anyway, so a Halloween special one-off. I'll think about that. That would be kind of fun to do, like a Halloween special noir one-off. We will see. Anyway, let's talk about what happened in our last session, shall we? And let's fire up a little bit of music. Because in this world that we are playing, there we go, music back on, the party has spent the last several sessions making their way towards the dragon, a dragon that they have been tasked by King Dane to defeat. But as one might expect, it's not as easy as just let's go to the dragon's lair and kill them. First of all, doing that is going to be hard enough. But secondly, they actually have to get there. And to get there, they have to do so while hopefully not attracting the attention of other unmentionables who might try to stop them. The party has been somewhat less successful on that score, partially because of things which happened beyond their control and then things which just happened along the way. There was, for example, the burning down of an entire hall, which, the party wasn't responsible for that, but they were there when it happened. And so there's that going on. And the party in the last session was able to discover a few things. First of all, they have now found themselves joined, at least temporarily, by Utgash the Burned Orc, who is a terribly burned figure who came from an orc tribe that was basically working under the sway of the dragon. Utgash did not like this and basically quarreled with the members of his tribe and was forcibly removed by them. And so Utgash, swearing revenge, has wandered the waste and has encountered the party, and there is a, I would say, quite uneasy alliance at the moment between the Anduinats and Utgash the Burned Orc. But there is also the latest addition to their party, and that is Lord Elston, he who is of legendary status in Dale, who was one of the people sent, along with Greystroke and Scarfina, along with the merchant company of dwarves, about which more in a moment, and along with the party, with these Anduinats, to try to defeat this dragon. But as I mentioned, there was this other group that was found along with that group, and that was the Brothers Coldrum, a mercenary group of dwarves. It was that mercenary group of dwarves that ended up almost, attempted to, I shouldn't say almost, but they attempted to eliminate the party when the party became suspicious of what they were doing at the Hall of Breck, and was also the same group of people that had attacked Lord Elston and then left him for dead. But the party managed to find and save him, and has now been rejoined by Lord Elston. But they are not all the way there yet. They still have more of the waste to cross, and they have to do so while still somewhat being, under danger of the waste. In fact, towards the end of our session last time, the party encountered this evil lake, a lake filled with shadow, in which some of the party members were drawn under its spell, and it was only thanks to the work of several of the party members attempting to save them, Tawny Bear, once he came up for air, being able to heal them, and Utgash, of all people, who was willing to go down and save them so that he could continue his path of vengeance, that the party managed to escape. And so as we begin our session today, that's right, Utgash the Metal, that's right. As we begin our session today, we're going to jump back up to this map. And we are going to enter part 5 here of this adventure as we approach the Watchtower. Now, the note that I want to make was, I believe, just to confirm, I had Bolo at 52 out of 52 hit points and 4 shadow points. Bolo, is that what you've got as well?
Double check. 52 and 4, yeah.
Okay. And then we've got River. We have you at 63 out of 63 hit points with 4 shadow. Okay. And Stone is 36 out of 36 with 1 shadow, I believe is what I have you at. Wah, wah. So Inga is the big shadow problem at the moment, 78 out of 78 with 9 shadow points. And then Tawny has got 57 out of 57 with 4 shadow points. As we speak, the Dragon Hunt score continues. And I want to start us right at the evening here, which is that as you are traveling along and getting closer, there's a couple things you note, which is that there is basically this gorge that runs between the edge of the waste and the peak of Zerakinbar, which is the watchtower towards which the party is heading. That's where the dragon supposedly has made its lair. Not supposedly. The party knows they made its lair there because they made a deal with him in recent years. Now, in the past, you know that the gorge caves were basically frozen and were home to various creatures. In fact, you might remember that the last time you came this way, there were snow trolls that were actually there. But as you come right to the edge of the waste and you're prepared to enter Zerakinbar, to enter the Blighted Lands, I should say, to the north of the waste in which Zerakinbar is located, the gorge now looks quite different. As you look down from your vantage point, you can see that these are now what look like mud-choked pits of slime. Clearly something of massive ability to heat and flame has melted these areas. And so now what you're looking at like is a I'm suddenly having this flashback to accelerated climate change. Listen, okay, it's just not frozen the way that it was before, and there, it looks like very, very dangerous footing. However, it is really the only easy route through the hills. If you were to go either to the west or to the east, you can see even on the map there that the mountains get very high, and it would be essentially impassable. I mean, it would take a month plus just to be able to get over that area. There's not really much of a way to do it. So you're going to be able to get there, at least as far as you know, through the gorge. Although, again, you're not quite at the gorge yet. You may or may not have a decision to make about the path before you when you get there, depending on what you see. And so it is the evening, basically, on the evening before the day when you're going to be coming to this vantage point, when Lord Elston comes to speak to all of you. You were in the camp that you have set. And Utgash is out sort of scouting the land a little bit. You can actually probably make out his form barely in the sort of gray fading light, just as he kind of looks around at several places. And so Elston comes up to you, all the four of you, as you sit around the growing fire, the campfire, and he says, I don't wish to question your position here. You have rescued me, and I am grateful, and I will do what I can to fight this foul worm. But I am troubled by this ally with which you have found yourself connected. You know that he will eventually betray. It is the logic of the logic of what his people's actions have been. We must assume that betrayal and treachery will be the result. And I have had enough of that in the last several weeks to fill me for a lifetime. Are you sure of this burned orc? And he kind of looks over at the back of the figure some distance away of Utgash.
River looks at Lord Elston very steadily, with some sympathy, but also with a kind of cool steel.
Okay.
and says, I appreciate your position, and we have, of course, considered this before allying with him. But if you'll recall, we were also allied with, ostensibly, the Brothers Coldrum, and had no reason to suspect them of treachery based on our alliances with the dwarves as a people, as a nation. And betrayal from that direction was terrible and unexpected. But allyship from this direction, while equally unexpected, has thus far resulted in us being able to rescue you. We would not have been able to had not Utgash saved us from the perils of that terrible lake, had he not helped us through other difficulties. And I think we understand each other, he and us. We have stated our own goals very plainly. We are only allies in the fighting of this worm. And we have made certain promises to each other, which, if kept, would be to everyone's benefit, and if not, would be a grievous shame. But in the meantime, I do think that we can trust him to bring us to the dragon, one way or another.
So he nods slowly, and he says, I am mostly concerned of looking in two directions at once. When we arrive, we will need to spend our time focused on the worm in front, and not the cold steel of a dagger in the dark behind. But if you believe that this marriage of convenience will hold, at least through the finding of the dragon, then I will defer to your judgment, but I must admit it does not sit well with me.
I forget. Sorry. Does Lord Elston know Utgash's like backstory
No.
at this point?
No,
Okay.
he just know because, and it's not like Utgash has been like, "Hi,
No,
I'm
no.
Utgash," and like,
So River is going to tell him to say that like what motivates him and what we're aware of is not fellow feeling or a righteous desire to slay a mighty worm.
Right.
It is very much that he wants his position as head of his tribe back, and he needs help fighting against their current leadership. So like she's gonna make it quite clear and saying so. I'm saying this.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Just to make quite clear that like the trust here is that he wants us to fight with him against that leadership which is currently allied with the dragon. So River doesn't feel like it makes any sense for Utgash to be misleading them in that. So that is the main thing.
And so he nods and he turns to the rest of you and he says, "And are you all of the same mind? Thane Tonybear and Bolobrus, are you of the same mind about this orc?"
Bolo says, yes. It's a difficult decision that we make, and perhaps a slightly dangerous one too, but I do believe that he has a great desire to wreak vengeance upon the dragon. I think we can rely on that much.
He nods and he looks over you, Tony.
Lord Elston, you know me.
I do.
I would not be here if I didn't believe. And there is no doubt in my mind that whatever truce we have exists up to the point that he gets what he wants. After that, it's a free-for-all. We know this going in, but I believe it's necessary or we wouldn't be here.
He nods and he says, "Then I would ask one other question. Do you know of the others that came? Not those mercenary dwarves, but the hero, the human, and the halfling. Greystroke and Scarfira, they called themselves. Have you seen them?"
Have. We met them at insert name of house.
Oh, yes. Notbrek.
The next to last homely house.
Yeah.
Last homely house.
Yeah, it was Notbrek. It was Jinnar's house. That's right. Or Gynar, I should say. Gynar's house. And he says, very well. They are, especially that Greystroke seems most stern and fell. But I would welcome any kind of common cause against this creature. And if, as you say, this orc here, and you can see the orc that Utgash has now turned and is heading back towards you, if, as you say, this one is to be trusted at least until we reach the dragon, then I suppose that too is part of our common purpose. It is dark days indeed when we must ally with those we would otherwise battle against, so as to defeat a common enemy. I am old and not used to such complexities of allyship. And he kind of gives you all sort of a wry grin. And at this point, Utgash has come over and in his sort of strange, hunched over way, and he says,
"Hello, fellow kids."
He says it. Hello, fellow. Yes. Oh man, that is the perfect meme. Anyway, no, he comes over and he's just like, "One of you should come with me. You must see what awaits." And he kind of, without ever stopping to wait and see if anyone listens, turns over and not lopes fast, but just sort of moves at a fairly decent pace up to the north. Yes, slopes. There you go. Well done. Slow and lopes. Yes.
Are we still in journey mode of like scout, lookout, etc.?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Is this more of a scouting or more of a looking outing?
I think this would probably be more of a scout thing. So I think we're thinking about a Bolo situation here. I believe it would be if you were going to do it on that basis.
Assuming Bolo even wants to, like, I mean,
well,
I think that
others can join me, but I will head that way.
Yeah. I think that like River was like about to get up and then realizes actually maybe it would make more sense for Bolo and kind of sits down and looks to Bolo like,
Tani, you're going to stay behind and hang, or what are you going to do?
Tony's going to tag along.
Okay. Inga, I imagine, is going to stare into the fire, that 10,000 dwarf stare.
well, okay, then if Tawny's also going, River will also go, and Lord Elston and Inga can stare into the fire together.
Okay.
Yeah, because Inga probably doesn't want to get anywhere near that orc.
I know. I keep waiting to be. You've been allying with who? Okay. So, so you come up to the top. Ooh, and I have a picture for this actually. So let me pull up that picture. I have to say, I have a wireless printer up in my office, which sometimes people can hear printing out while I'm talking. And every so often, kids are going back to school next week. So I look over in the printer and it's either like supply list for school or like this random like knitted tiger puppet, which I guess either my wife or my daughter is going to make for my son. So I just look over and I just see these knitted tiger eyes, like staring, like coming out of the printer. I'm like, what the hell? So anyway, okay. So let me show you all.
When I look to the side,
that'd be funny if a
camera,
printout came up and it said "Time for lunch." Come downstairs.
Come downstairs. Okay, here we go. Let me show you all this picture quickly though.
Meanwhile, when I look in this direction, I see a fluffy cat, and he is very cute. He's sleeping.
Very
and
nice.
He's rotated.
Okay, here is the image. So you come up to the top of this
on stream
hill.
Or roll 20.
Basically, it's going to be on stream. And you look down, and he, as you come up, Utgash actually says, "Get down low," and sort of bends down fairly low to the earth.
Yeah, I'll join him.
Okay.
Should have brought the tallest guy.
That printing is not the way I wanted to do things. My apologies. Let me just fix that for just a moment.
Ooh.
Yeah, wait a second. Because I cut that the wrong way. Okay, there we go.
They're skylining. Why can't we?
Yeah, I know, right? Okay, there we go. That's more like it. So, in front of you, you see what would best be described as the lands around are still and empty, and this break in the sort of hills. As you've gotten closer, the hills have begun to rise as it moves up into the mountain ranges that make up a great deal of the blasted lands to the north of the waste. But there is this area that goes through that gets you to the spot where you would have to make another decision about which direction to go. But the problem is that it is still and empty and open. And you can see there that what looks like a kind of maze of gullies and defiles and cuts in the earth that have clearly been formed through both lava flow and perhaps dragon fire and other things that sort of crisscross and cover over basically the land from here to there. But in between there, on top of the gullies, it's just wide open. And so he points off, Utgash points off in the far distance. The moon has begun to rise, and he says, "Can you see there on the edge?" And if you follow his direction over, I would ask the three of you who have come, Tani, Bolo, and River, to make perception checks for me, please.
Just getting a Sam Neill from Event Horizon. Do you see?
Oh, man.
You said perception.
That's a rather deep cut for that film. I was like, oh, yeah. Okay.
10.
A 10 and 9. You do not see.
25.
What you do not smell is arcane powder. Okay. Okay, so Tani, you see it. Right over on the edge of the hill. And again, it's a very far distance, so you can just barely see at the edge of your vision what looks like at first they look almost like other rock formations, except then you see them move. And of course, rock formations do not move in your experience, except when you're doing the blink angel
Except when
thing.
they
And
did.
yeah, exactly.
Not
That's
so long
different.
ago.
Running
Exactly.
away from an avalanche.
Exactly. That's true.
Yeah.
But no, these certainly not at this level. These look much more like your garden variety humanoid figures that are almost at the edge of your perception. And so Utgash asks whether you see it, and clearly you don't, Bolin River, but you do, Tawny.
You mean those two rocks that are moving around out there?
And he says, 2 guards of the orcs looking down upon the place we must cross. And there will be more. Hundreds, perhaps, of orcs by now, all looking down upon this land. They will see, and they will tell him, we cannot cross any faster at dark than at night, for my people see better even in the day, even in the nighttime than the day. But by day, those caves on the sides of the hills will have guards looking down, eyes from all directions.
River at hundreds of orcs sort of looks thoughtful. Had not been expecting that number, considering their band's tiny size and stuff. But nods and says, is there another way around?
Not until we are on the other side of this place. Then we must make a decision. Will we go through this space, the gorge in front of us, or will we go through the mountains? But before we can make that decision, we must cross this, and must do so without being seen, or they will harry and attack us at every corner.
So, no. There is not another way around.
And he says, he looks at you and he says, not unless you would go all the way around up to the north, perhaps hundreds of miles in either direction, to get to where the dragon, no, he didn't say the dragon, to where the worm waits. We must go straight. And yet how to do it? And he points down to the maze of gullies and so on. He says, perhaps somewhere in there may be a path. But it is a path which can only be seen by the best of scouts. And he sort of looks around and looks at all the 3 of you.
River says, Bolo's an excellent scout, but it strikes me that we also have Freaky, Inga's friend Raven, who perhaps could, he was able to help us find each other when we were separated before. Perhaps he too here could help us navigate a maze of gullies.
Creatures on wings cannot see where the gullies and pits extend below. Even with the keenest eyes, there will be things concealed under tongues of rock, and those will not be visible to those above. Only those within the maze will be able to see where the paths turn. Though, perhaps, this creature of yours could see if there were guards above, but down below it will be of no use.
Down below, and River puts her hand on Stone, who is with her. Down below we'll have other assistance, I think, of help in detecting things that perhaps...
And he nods and he says, whatever decision we make, it must be made soon. Everywhere I feel the eyes of the worm upon us. And he kind of looks around And you all feel the kind of pressure, of this presence. Go ahead, Bolo. You were going to say something.
Did you say it was evening?
It is evening. Yes. In fact, the moon is rising.
Bolo has the ability to hide in shadows. I wonder, if the guards don't seem to be moving very much, if Bolo should try to like map out a path alone first,
It's quite possible.
then come back and have people, guide the party through the safest path.
I think what we would do in that case, I think that makes a lot of sense. We would have you do an investigation check to see if you can find that path and also to avoid being spotted. If you're successful, what that would do is it would give the group advantage on the stealth checks that the group would need to cross over this maze. So that advanced scouting would certainly make sense. So yeah.
River also says, I wonder if it's possible to create some sort of distraction farther from where we are, something to draw their gaze elsewhere. And now I'm trying to, like, in my own head, construct a path towards how River would think of making an explosion somewhere else.
The issue, I think, is probably the scope and size of the place. That, it's not like, if you're looking at this massive open area, it's not like tossing a firebomb or something, even if you could do something like that, to one side. It might distract them temporarily, but it's a pretty large area. Like, they're still going to be looking in the general vicinity of the empty area. I'm thinking about, like, there's a sequence where in The Mandalorian where they're trying to cross over this area of desert while they're being shot at by a sniper from the rocks, right? And like that area is pretty limited in space where they're trying to cross over. This is pretty big is the problem. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
The only other thought I have is if we're being watched from above, then I wonder if there is a way for us to blend in better with the landscape. If we could...
Yeah.
And Utgash, when you say that,
prepare some camouflage.
He reaches down and he digs into the slime and the mud at his feet, and he says, Utgash has no need of further disguise, for he already is one with the ground. But you, the skin which is lighter, you perhaps could present a disguise for yourself if you would grow dirtier. And he almost gets this terrible sort of grin, which is partially, the half-burned portion of his face, and he sort of holds out this handful of mud and just puts it on the ground, and he says, now see whether you are suited for the dirt.
River is like, and says this is actually a very good idea. And we'll pick up some of the mud and look at it and sort of like feel the consistency of it in her hands first and stuff. Is it just like normal mud?
It is blighted mud. I'm only being half facetious. It is normal mud to a degree, but there is a grittiness to it where even as you feel it on your fingers, you can feel it almost. It feels like it's almost tearing at the skin. It's not actually, but it feels.
I was literally going to say, is this actually going to severely abrade us as we put it on?
It's really good exfoliation. Okay, is what I'm saying. It's really good.
It's acidic. Mud,
yeah,
exactly.
For
like an hour, you're like, ah.
But there is also this faint, unpleasant odor to it as well. But yes, it's vaguely sulfurous. But yeah, I mean, it's mud that won't harm you to put it on, but it's not pleasant.
Yeah. River says, she's like looking at this mud and she goes, I've heard that there are places in, I'm trying to think, what is the fanciest place they have been to? Is there?
Maybe the palace in Dale, I would say probably is the fanciest place that they've been to because,
Oh,
because they've been to like the homes of wizards, but like Radagast is
right.
not what you would call fancy, right?
No,
Like
no. Although more likely to have bathed in mud than other wizards.
actually, that
Radagast,
I just
the
thought of it. The
brown.
throne room of the Lonely Mountain would probably be the one
Ah,
that is the most dramatic looking,
fair
soaring,
enough.
fancy. I mean, very dwarven and sensible, but also impressive.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically, River is going to like look to Tawny and say, "Tawny, do you remember do you remember the peddlers who came with their rich, fragrant mud that they were charging, to vast sums of money to slather onto the limbs of the aristocrats in Dale. Anyway, sorry, city place. Yeah, it was supposed to have wonderful health benefits to cover yourself in mud for a while, and then
I
wash
doubt
off.
this was the source.
True, true.
And you hear again a low chuckle, and you look over, and Utgash sort of bending down, his hands sort of dipping through it. The fanciest of them, yes. The lords, with all of their fancy silks, they would not know what to do were dirt to touch their fair skin. But Utgash knows. He rubs it on his shoulder, and then tastes it, and it is the right kind.
Oh. River does actually like kind of smile a bit as she like puts this. She'll start rubbing this mud on her and stuff, and the place where they're camped is presumably not that muddy, I guess.
Right. Although it's been getting a little more so, but not really. No, this is an area where, because of it almost looks like a windbreak. You kind of have to clamber up through these it's not a long hill, but sort of fairly steep hills, and clamber up and over to get to this spot that Utgash wanted you to see, which is looking out at this vantage point that you can see
Right.
here.
So
I'm just wondering whether we
Bolo
should.
says,
Oh,
before
sorry.
you go too far with the mud, do we want to scout now or in the daylight when they can't see as well?
And Utgash nods and says, "It will be up to you. In either case, I suspect that they will be told to look into the sun until their eyes bleed. Haglach does not want anything to come close without knowing, nor does the worm. But your decision is yours."
So Bolo says I could perhaps scout now so that we'd be ready to leave at daylight. Or there are other options. Or I could scout now and we could leave now. As soon as I find a path, if I can.
Utgash says, "Every delay gives the worm more chance to discover where we are."
Remind me mechanically when our next dragon roll is and stuff.
Tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning. Right?
Yep. So the order of operations would be, if you do it this way, Bolo goes across, does his little scouting check. If that all goes well, comes back next morning, dragon hunt check, and then the group of you go across. And if Bolo was successful, then you will get advantage on those checks.
And what is our dragon hunt score right now?
It is, as we speak, it is currently 3. Because remember, it reset after all that stuff happened.
Right. River says, I think that makes sense. And also, if he can be of any help to you, she'll like pat Stone a little bit. She's like, you take Stone with you. Maybe he'll help you to find things that you might not have smelled or seen in the dark otherwise. He's very good with this.
Well, I'm worried that he might attract attention. I can hide quite effectively in shadow and go unseen. I'm not sure that Stone can.
Which is
Fair enough.
precisely the reason why I haven't offered to go with you as a bear, because I can scout a 3-day range in one night, but it would be a big bear walking through the middle.
I have this image of like the gully, and there's just this bear back like above the top of them.
We're aware of the bear, the ghost bear at this point.
We have still not seen the ghost bear.
You haven't seen it, but he's told you about it.
We believe in the ghost bear, but we haven't seen it. Can we muddy up the ghost bear?
Is the ghost bear visible? I assume.
And he leaves tracks.
Oh.
So he can muddy himself up.
Big bearish tracks.
He can just be a muddy bear.
Okay, we've got 2 little rocks moving around out there that Tawny has seen without too much difficulty. Now, we're talking about a huge freaking boulder.
Montage.
Utgash, what do you see down there? I don't know. It's nothing. It's just one of those large spectral bears. All right, that's fine then. Nothing to see here.
It's the
All right,
waste.
deal.
Frankly, there's weird shit in the waste all the time. Weird tree that appears, moves to other places. Weird storms. Why could there not be a
Wandering
spectral
rocks.
bear?
What happens in the waste stays in the waste. Yes.
Why could there not be? I just think it makes sense. I'm just saying. Weird spectral bear, horrible waste. I don't see why those two tastes can't go together.
I absolutely see many reasons that the bear will have value. I'm not sure that trying to get through a maze of gullies quite fits in that description.
Anyway,
Yeah.
it's fine. No, that makes sense. And River anyway is like, she kind of nods to Bolo's logic here and is like respecting his decision and expertise thus far.
So if we could perhaps delay the decision of whether or not to go like this night until after I see what I see.
Well,
So
we'll
yeah,
plan
I
either
will
way.
use. Say again?
We'll be prepared either way.
Yeah.
Although River like grabs another handful of mud. I will probably need some time to convince Inga to put this on.
Yeah, you get started on that.
I'll get started on that. She's
6 persuasion checks later.
I just hope there's enough to cover all this real estate.
There is plenty of mud. So yeah.
All right, I will use the mud
Okay.
before I get started.
Okay.
And then I will get rid of anything that might create extra noise. I'm leaving Flankseer behind. Just go kind of, as thin as possible, basically, and silent. And then I'll head out.
In a title from a Tolkien book, this would be The Parting of Flankseer. The leaving of Flankseer.
No.
Exactly, Rudenell. All of the inspirations for the month used with the river trying to get Inga to mud up. Like, it's like it's fire. So, all right. So, Bolo, you're gonna make your way across.
No, wait. This is I'm sorry. Alternate title: Taking the frying pan into the fire.
Oh, nice. I'll check you out. Check you out. That's that work that produced that Hugo Award-winning pedigree right there.
Look! I put them up. I hadn't put up my second one, and now it's there.
Now it all is there. It's good stuff.
This is how you win the mud war.
This is how.
Or slime.
Slime. There's red mud and blue mud. Okay. So Bolo, you begin. It is an eerie, strange experience as you cross over. The moon has now risen high enough that the light from it, and it's nearly full, illuminates the crevices and cracks, and on multiple occasions you walk past things that you think might actually be something that's there, and it's just a particular rock formation that looks a certain way. As you make your way through, occasionally you think you hear some like scuttling away, but then, nothing is there when you move around the corner. It's very much like walking through almost like trenches and things like that as you make your way. I need you to make an investigation check here, and I will let chat know that we do in fact have a couple of sessions left, so I can't say that you have no sessions left, but you do have today, and then you've got the Ghosts of Saltmarsh later on today. So if you got those inspirations, just keep in mind as Bolo is making his way across across the way.
Bolo
Just saying.
picks up his die.
I was just about to ask.
I'm gonna inspire Bolo.
Okay, see, so Mal's got a couple, yeah.
That's true. I forgot. I have spent 0 amounts of inspiration.
Yeah,
this
because
whole
August
month.
is so messed up schedule-wise that sessions have been kind of disjointed a bit. So, okay, so Amal has inspired Bolo. All right, Bolo.
Okay.
So, investigation.
Yeah, as it turns out.
Not enough, no. You make your way through, and at one point, Bolo, as you find your way, and interestingly, so it's definitely not a straight path. You have to go somewhat left and then over, and there are a couple of moments where, as you're thinking about this, your heart sinks a little bit because you're like, oh man, and then they're gonna have to make that little jump without making a noise, and like you can do that because you can be silent when needed.
And stealthy.
Yeah, you don't know whether all the rest will be able to manage it, and there are a couple of moments where the gully is low enough that clearly Tawny is pretty much going to have to get on hands and knees to kind of go there, so not being like this head just sort of emerging above the land.
You have to do the worm.
Like a
across the
bear?
area.
Like,
for instance, a
like
bear.
for instance, a bear.
Except for the fact that as soon as I wake up, my body's back where it was. So
Yeah, that's the. And so, Bolo, as you're making your way across, you get to this one spot at the other end of the maze, and this takes a while. It's probably moving carefully and quietly a good half hour to cross over this area. And when you get to the other side, you come right to the other side and you hear. And it's definitely the muttering of two voices, almost certainly Orcish. You can hear them not in the trench where you are, not in the gully, but above, and as you can hear them kind of moving in your direction, Bolo, like you're standing in the end of the gully, which sort of looks like it has a little area you'd have to climb up, and then you'd be on the other side of this maze. And you can hear the voices getting louder as if they're moving in your direction, obviously from above you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking for a place to hide.
Okay. I need you to make a stealth check for me, please. Wow. 32? So you just wink out of existence. Suddenly it's just Bolo outline. Like
I
just,
find a badger hole and I go in it.
Listen, I don't know what to say except the last time I knew a hobbit who went that invisible, I'm just saying, all right? There's something which...
the
anyway.
highest he can roll is a 33, so he's almost there.
So you managed to sneak. What does that look like, actually, Bolo? Like, how do you? I mean, there's rock formations and stuff. How do you vanish that much?
Yeah, like flatten. I'm all like covered in this stuff anyway.
In the
right?
mud,
So I
yeah.
find a bolo-sized indentation and like lie in it, so my face is like looking up, kind of.
Right, you just see the eyes blinking.
Watch
Okay.
them pass. Yeah.
So then you're able to see as you hit it, and for a moment, your eyes look above you and you can see literally the legs and feet of the orcs like padding over the spot in the gully where you are. And then and you recognize the name Hoglock because Utgash has used that name before as the person who defied him. And then they pass over, and there's a moment where you hear, and there's a pause, and then you have this image of the face of this orc staring down. It feels like directly at you, and and then lifts back up. And the two voices then fade into the distance.
I stay perfectly still until the sound diminishes entirely. So I found this path. Did they walk along? Did they continue along the path that I had just?
No, they are going in another direction. So you know, it seems. And that once the voices are faded, you go back to just hearing the little scurrying here and there sounds or whatever, but it's just otherwise pretty much silent.
All right. I think I do want to follow them just a bit. Not terribly far, but I just want to kind of see if there's like maybe an outpost, a watchtower,
You can look
area
up.
where.
Well, sorry, I'm sorry. I was gonna say you can look above the gully where you are, Bolo, but they were moving basically perpendicular to it, so you would have to get out of the gully. Like they crossed over the gully, if you follow what I mean, because it got so basically narrow above you that they could literally step over it. And so,
Well, is
yeah.
that where we're headed?
No, no. The area where you're headed is basically south north. They were heading east west. So
Okay.
they were crossing over it, clearly on a patrol of some kind. Now you could like peek up. It's small, but it's big enough, obviously, that faces fit through it. So you could peek up if you wish and kind of like look out to see where they were going. You could do that.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'm just trying to make sure that the path that I've just chosen isn't like right next to a scouting
Okay.
spot.
No, it
They have
doesn't. It
staked
doesn't
out.
seem like it. If you like look up above, you can see in the moonlight their figures are quite visible, and they're kind of making their way
All right.
off to the west. But no, the area where you are seems to end. The path you were following seems to end in an area which then leads up into the hills. And as you just kind of quickly glance around, you don't see any obvious like sentinel guard posts or anything like
All
that.
right. Okay. All right. With that in mind, so I've gone far enough that I have found the path that we could follow. That's pretty, gives us a good chance
Seems
to.
reasonable.
Okay. All right. Then I will head back stealthily to the group.
About I would say about 45 minutes into this wait, Utgash, who has just been like kind of low to the ground, crouched, his long arms sort of resting on his knees, and he says as he's looking down, "Hope your friend has not become lost."
Very unlikely.
River says, "We also hope this. It's good to be aligned in our hopes, isn't it?"
We will soon know. And then, about 12, 13 minutes later or so, Bolo, you are able to scramble back up. And Utgash regards you silently as you emerge, Bolo.
Now, I would like to think that on their return path, on their patrol,
Yeah.
that one of the orcs,
One of
goblin,
the orcs,
whatever, looks down right to where he was, looks down and goes, "A hobbit lay here."
And I should mention, by the way, that the face that you saw, Bolo, was the face of a smaller and more wiry, almost like a mountain orc, like a goblin, as opposed to one of the sort of standing, the Urukai style, ones.
Much hotter.
So, and you couldn't tell honestly about the other one because you only saw the one. But in any case.
All right. Well, I'll sort of gather the group, including Utgash, and describe, the path and then what I saw and the name that I heard. I forgot the name already.
Hoglock.
Hoglock.
And when you say that name, Utgash. Hoglock. What did they say about him?
I know.
You have no idea unless you speak Orc.
I was trying to look up my languages.
That's actually a
I
good point.
don't
Do
think
you?
I
I don't think you would. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Coming
he
from the Shire.
he
think
kind
he
of looks
would-
at you intently, Bolo, as if you should somehow know that.
I'm quite curious though. Do you think like Bolo could have gotten a sense of whether they were talking approvingly, mockingly, derisively?
Very hard to say.
Okay.
Because they always seem vaguely derisive in their language. Honestly.
Yeah.
Tawny probably, because he's got tongues of many peoples, he could probably have made out bits and pieces of it.
Right.
Mostly the insults, what things people would learn from orcs.
Right.
But probably not enough to really garner what specifically they were saying.
But he does stare at you, Bolo. Like
I'm going to suggest a wisdom throw for Bolo too, because what I wanted to do is like remember some of the words, even though he doesn't have the language,
Oh yeah.
and try to
Yeah.
repeat
Just
it.
remember the phonetics of them.
Yeah.
Especially around that name.
Sure. Sure.
Just to give him some kind of sense of what they were talking about, if possible.
I don't think you're going to be able to pick up what they were talking about, but if I'll let you have a wisdom check to see if perhaps, no, you know what I'll do? Let's make it insight, which is wisdom driven anyway. And you can maybe get a sense. I technically I would have under normal circumstances said we should make this check when you were actually there, but that's okay. Let me have you do an insight check.
But yeah, maybe this is sort of with Utgash helping me kind of thing.
Right.
Whatever.
I actually had a moment like this many years ago when we were trying to sneak into a club in Dallas, and my friend had an Israeli ID. And he's like, I'll just use an Israeli fake ID. And I'm like, so if the bouncer, asks us for our ID and then asks you, how are we supposed to, tell you that he wants to see your ID if none of us speak Hebrew? And she was like, well, I can just teach you some real quick. I'm like, oh, sure. We're on our way to the thing. And what would I say? And so she tells me, just turn to me and say this. And I'm like, how am I supposed to remember that? And so I remembered it by kind of, I don't know what it's called when you pick words that sound similar, but it was yes.
Mnemonics.
Okay, yeah. So it was like, yes, sir, my shoe, wish me luck, Leroy, was how I remembered to say what I remember now as being yesh la mashu bish me lodero. And it was, do you have anything to show him? And so she looked at me and I said that ish, and she pulls out her Israeli fake ID and she hands it to him. The guy looks at it and he's like, yeah, have a good time. And I'm like, oh, thank God. Anyway, sorry.
I don't think I was going to come back to you in like perfect Hebrew and like say like,
Right.
Well, we're screwed. Thank you for.
Oh, yeah, that would be great. But then she could have just, because she was from Haifa, so she could have just taken over at that point and been like, oh, have you been lately? There's this and this and this. I'm like,
I see.
I would just be watching back and forth. Anyway.
All right, here we go.
I mean, it was a lot of grunting. It didn't. I mean, it didn't necessarily sound like they were sort of like making these evil sounding laughs, but it wasn't like Hoglash, like that kind of thing. It wasn't so obvious like Hoglash, pause, and then everyone laugh about Hoglash. You didn't get that impression.
The scene in Enemy Mine when Dennis Quaid is trying to speak Drac, and he's like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, gosh, eventually when it's clear that you don't really know, and he says, "Did you find the path?"
I did. I think I found a reasonably good path for us to stay hidden the entire way.
And we will do so as soon as we can. The white face is now far overhead. There are hours still before dawn. Do we cross now or wait for the morning?
It's a good question.
I think it makes sense to cross now. If
I'm gonna lean that way too. With the get past this before the dragon roll might be a good idea.
But also, if the patrol went past, then that might be a good time to
True.
go through.
Yeah. Head over now. I'm in agreement.
Okay.
All right.
Or is the rest of you? Tani, Inga seems willing to go along with your
He's back
assumptions.
at the fire.
Yeah.
Oh no, I figure we're all at the fire.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
Like, but so Inga, I'm imagining, is just like actually almost indistinguishable from an earthen mound staring into the flames, having been covered up in mud and.
I think there might be some movement. I think she's staring at Utgash, just sharpening her axe.
Ha!
Give one book.
Yep.
Stone, do you concur?
Oh.
All right, good enough for me.
Right.
Stone River is still like sort of streaking some mud into Stone, and sort of he looks a lot more brindled now than he did before.
And she keep telling him not to shake it all out.
Yeah, it's like no. I mean, actually, that might be.
I mean, if you want to get covered by it,
If
maybe
we wanna
you
get-
wait.
that might be the most
we can all stand
efficient
around
way.
it.
Yeah, just put it a bunch on him and wait.
Oh god, no, this is what happened. Oh my god. Okay, so she's trying to convince Inga to get covered in mud, and Inga's like, no. And River's like, oh, okay. And she like starts to put the mud on Stone, and Stone goes sugar, 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 and Inga gets covered cartoon style, and then River's like, "You're already covered. It's a little patchy. I think we could maybe smooth out your complexion a little." And so it goes
Under the eye.
and Inga's like, "Ah, not in my beard," and
Not the beard.
And they just blend and blend.
He's gonna make us roll for this soon.
Just imagine, God, River having like have you seen in like beauty influencers having like the blending sponges? It's just like blending the mud into everyone's complexion. Although no, it would make, I think, more sense for Bolo to be the one who knows how to do that. River is not great with makeup that isn't just two streaks
black streaks
of stuff. Like
Yeah, they have like Utgash as the judge in all of this, just like, you know,
You've gone too strongly on
and
the
Lord
eyeshadow.
Elston, they can like co-judge.
Yeah.
Oh God!
Lord Elston's like, I don't think this is quite the eye makeup that I would have used.
Utgash's Drag Race.
And Elston, I should say, by the way, as you're covering yourselves with this mud, Elston sort of looks not very pleased with this idea. Not because he's afraid of dirt, but is just sort of in general. This seems he seems not altogether wild about it, but he says nothing and simply covers himself and his.
I wonder how
shield with
muddy
this
he
mud.
is anyway right now.
Yeah, he was pretty dirty, but not muddy in this way. But yes, that's true. He has kind of this ground in dirt.
He was nearly a corpse in a crevasse. I feel like,
Right. As I say, his concern was not aesthetic. Yeah. His concern was about, So
I'm just imagining. I'm sorry, this is so silly, but it's just the fact that, like, in drag terminology, you slay. And I just like the idea that an orc is going like sashay away and just Shantae, you stay. Sorry.
That foundation gives me life.
So you cover yourselves in this mud, in this smelly, uncomfortable mud. And probably about 15 to 20 minutes, you feel all sufficiently dirtied and muddied up, basically. And then you are brought back over to do this trip across the waste, as it were, or across the I should say the end of the waste, but leading up to the Blighted Lands. So what I will need the party to do now is I'm going to need you to make not one, not two, but 3 group stealth checks.
Oh boy.
But you will get advantage on these checks because of Bolo scouting. So what that is that all 4 of you, Tani, if you wouldn't mind rolling for Inga, and I would say actually really Stone has to make this as a separate entity as well. Lord Elston, I'll take care of Elston and Utgash, but I will ask the rest of you, though, to make stealth checks one at a time. So one group, one check, we see how it goes, and then second check and third check. And what we're looking for is a majority of you to pass these checks. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, counting Utgash, Lord Elston, and Stone. So we need 4 of you to succeed, and if fewer than that do, then there's a problem.
Boy.
We'll talk about that.
Oh boy.
Yeah, here's to making new friends. Exactly. Big
And we
Boss.
need to do this 3 times?
3 times.
Ah!
But at advantage each time.
That's true. Okay, so we don't need to beg inspirations of the chat.
Question for the group. Should I hang? Well, I guess I have to show everybody where to go. Never mind. I was going to go out ahead, but I can't do that because I have to lead everyone. So, okay.
Well, I mean, you are usually ahead of the group as the scout.
Yeah, I meant far enough ahead to like scout for danger of like the scouts returning, perhaps.
Right. That's
like
up
that,
to you, Bolo, but I will say that it's going to be hard for you to get too far ahead because of how windy the gully paths
exactly.
are.
I have to show everybody the path that I found. So
yeah.
Okay.
I will be in the lead, but I'll be close enough for them to follow me.
Makes sense. Do we
I'll go first.
Is having muddied up going to be of any help?
Muddied up is what makes it possible for you to do this.
Okay, cool.
Otherwise, the moon would not be a pleasant,
Gotcha.
It would reveal quite a bit.
Gotcha.
19.
Wow. And
Here's my
there we
full
go.
33.
33. You actually lose sight of Bolo completely. You have no
Oh
idea
my
where Bolo is.
God.
Bolo looks down, can't see himself. Ah!
I hear them saying, "Polo, where are you?" When I have to like wave to them.
That's a 22.
7 for Tawny. But 19 because of the thing.
19 for Tawny.
That's right.
It's
22.
22 for the river.
Okay.
And you're gonna have to, Amal. You're gonna have to roll for.
For Inga?
Oh, I'm
because
sorry.
I don't have control.
Okay,
of
okay, my bad.
I've
Yeah.
got Inga. So stealth for Inga. Ooh.
That's fitting.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. Oh, it's a 15 for Inga.
Yeah.
And here's Stone. So it's just a straight dex one for Stone, I guess?
Yes.
Ooh,
Okay.
that'll be
So
21.
it looks then like okay. So the first portion of the journey proceeds relatively uneventfully, although there is a moment when you're going through this particularly thin area where there is this loud and it's the sound of Lord Elston's shield banging against the side
I
of
knew
the
it!
thing.
I also...
And it kind of echoes like
I was literally going to say, I'm also imagining a tiny side moment where River is like, your shield, Lord Elston, is very reflective, and we really need to muddy it up as well. And Lord Elston being like, like, fine putting it on his own body, but not so much
exactly.
on his shield.
Would you
Not the
muddy up
shield.
my integrity? You know, that type of thing.
Well, but
You want to
nevertheless,
survive this trip?
yeah. So like, I'm
Not
imagining
at the cost of my integrity. Oh, man, I'm sorry.
it's a totally muddied out shield, but of course it's still very big and it clunk. Anyway.
Yes.
Okay.
Either way, though, that's so there happens, and Utgash, who is basically bringing up the rear, kind of glares at Lord Elston, like as you all look back, and Elston, who you can just sort of see blinking through the mud covering his face, is sort of shakes his head in half apology, and Utgash, and okay, so that's about a third of the way through. All right, Bolo, part two, the second part of the trip.
Okay.
You're now too far to retreat, if need be. Okay.
Okay.
Yup. Okay.
This is so stressful.
Creeping across in the moon covered.
I'm being followed by a moon shadow. Moon shadow, moon shadow.
You hear that, but it's all orcish, so
Wide face.
So that's
White
a
face
21
shadow.
for River.
Okay, all right. So we have that. That was yours.
Doesn't make any sense.
That's,
Okay, that's
Ouch.
11. I'll come back to that.
yeah, Stone and
how-
Inga. Okay. Whoops. Whew.
Okay.
And that is a 23 for Inga.
So the second part of the journey proceeds okay. There is at one point a step where Stone his paw kind of stamps on one part of the rock and then slips as a piece of rock sort of comes off, and it like rattles and echoes alarmingly down the gully. And again, and Stone kind of like hangs his head slightly, and Utgash again sort of glares back, glares forward at
What have I gotten myself into?
incompetence. No.
River's just petting his good little head. His good giant head.
Yeah. But otherwise, both Elston and Utgash seem to do okay this time. So that leads us to part 3. Now we're getting towards the stage where before you had the patrol, Bolo, which was towards the end of your first trip across the maze. So. Okay. The 30.
Oh no, we're rolling low now.
Yeah, exactly. Man, a 30, you're mailing it in. All right. Okay, Tawny with the 16. Sorry.
And I mean, it's more stressful for Amal because she's got to make 3 rolls for each
Right.
round.
Okay, we
Say
got
15 for the river.
15 for the river, yep.
Inga.
Rude enough. Heels on my shoe are deep in groove.
Pretty good with the 1 stealth.
17 for the river.
Yeah.
Sorry, for Inga.
For Inga,
rather.
okay. He's got a 17 in stealth. I guess 6 in stealth, huh?
Yep.
The silent dwarf. Dwarf is rigged for silent running.
Whee! And that's
Okay.
a 16 for stone.
So this time, all of you make those checks, and they and you cross the rest of the way, come to the spot, Bolo, where you had the thing popped up where you had the encounter with the patrol. But you're now at the spot where in front of you is the thing that leads up into the place where you'll have to make a decision. So assuming that
I will kind
go
of
ahead,
like,
Bolo, yeah.
I'll sort of hand sign to everybody, trying to remain very quiet. Of like 2 orcs passing here and going that way,
Yep.
kind of thing.
And so you're able to, they do not return, fortunately, and you're able to sort of climb up over this little lip of the end of the gully, which puts you now, you'll all be really happy to know, in this area. Welcome to the Blighted Lands, where shadow checks are plentiful. And okay, we'll talk about that tomorrow morning, so to speak, about the effect of that. But you have a decision to make now, and Utgash points out.
Can we just take a moment to be like, we've got all our checks. We did that.
Okay.
I am sweating. Do you know how many rolls? How many consecutive rolls that was? That was
It's
many. Several rolls.
Do you turn around and cheer? We made it! Made it.
No, I don't do that.
Like Rocky at the Rocky climbing the Philadelphia stairs.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da.
Orpheus emerging from the lip
Oh,
of
no.
Hades, going, yeah, no.
Oh, damn it! Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway.
Oh man. One of my favorite myths, and I once ran a debate case that argued that you should reject Hades' offer in the first place, because like honestly, just from a logical point of view, why would you trust this guy? Like, why on earth would you be like, oh yeah, just walk around and assume that she's behind you, like it'll be fine,
That
like
is a
why
big
would you?
part of the logic of the myth. It's like, well, doubt comes in,
Yeah.
as it comes in the song, but
That's
but
right,
also, it's a shame. It's a shame that Orpheus didn't try to negotiate
I
that
know.
deal. I feel like perhaps he could have negotiated that deal upwards to the surface.
But who was he doubting? Was he doubting Hades?
Or Persephone.
Or
He
Persephone?
was doubting.
Well, that's the thing. I think he forgets, right? I think he forgets really that it is Persephone who brokered this deal, not Hades, and that kind of should make it different in his mind. But yeah, and then the grief with the wolves that turn. But oh man. Anyway, so and yeah, that's Emily. I know Emily wants me to sing more with Utgash, the tradition of singing to Sauron once the blight line is crossed. Yes. We will see how much opportunity we have for Utgash, the lounge singer. Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars. Thank you. Okay, so
Somewhere way off in the distance, Raynar's like,
It has a good beat.
We have history. He was sort of summoned by harp music to come and talk to them in the first place. I'm turning up with a big band,
Exactly.
Like, ooh, Raynar, you done bad. You've been a bad boy, Raynar. Why? Anyway. Okay,
I'm
sorry.
just a scale dragon on the edge of your world. All right.
Woo!
So, you are now in the Blighted Lands, and Utgash, sort of crouching low, points in 2 directions and he whispers, "We must choose. In front is the faster way, the gorge." And he points at the spot, and now that you're close to the gorge, you can see indeed that it is just mud-filled and slime, and where it was frozen when you were there a few years ago, it is now just muddy, and there are, again, if you remember, actually Bolo won't remember this, but Tani and the river certainly, and Inga would remember this, that up on the sides of this area are cave mouths, right, where the trolls came from that one time. Plenty of them alongside. And Utgash says, there are many orcs there. Many of my tribe will be in the caves. It is faster, but there will be eyes everywhere. Or we must choose the mountains. And he points off. And you certainly know, having gone this route before, that at any time the mountain route would be perilous. There were, of course, biting cold winds that howled along the slopes. There was the icy kind of sheen, on the rocks, which made it slippery. But clearly things...
Charlie?
Say again?
Martin or Charlie?
Yeah, Martin or Charlie. Both of them. Emilio Estevez, the other one, that one. But things now have become worse because there is clearly this unwelcome false spring that has been brought to the region. In the moon, the cliffs glisten like a poisoned blade, and you can see slippery slush kind of melting off the sides and so on. And Utgash says, the way there is dangerous and treacherous, but far fewer of my people. If we reach the top, then we can hide in the scrub and the forest around the edges. But it is longer and more difficult. We must choose that way, or straight through the gorge, and somehow avoid the notice of my people. And there will be no trenches and gullies this time. What would you choose? And Lord Elston kind of, muddied and sort of kind of stretching slightly as he stands up, not all the way to be revealed, but, more than he was, looks up at all of you and down at his shield and says, it is not my way to avoid conflict or to stay out of sight. But if we have crossed this way to avoid sight, surely we must continue to do so. My vote then would be for the mountains, though it cuts against my grain. And
wait, the mountains being the place where we will
to
be
the
left?
sides. So
Yeah.
the gorge, so basically the mechanical thing of this is gorge is much faster and more direct and easier to navigate physically, but
Right,
it is
but
much
you'll
more
be-
exposed, much more visible to the orcs. Or you've got the mountains on either side, which is going to be harder physically, but no orcs.
Yeah, Bolo also does not like the gorge. I think it would put us at a disadvantage. We can.
River says that. Oh, sorry. Please continue. Sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just saying that it's probably worth it to take the time to go around and be unseen and have some advantage when we arrive.
River says that looks around basically at the size of their party and just and says, I think we should take into account our own strengths. It was difficult enough for us to remain unseen with cover, with Bolo's guidance. There was still a few moments back there that we might have been discovered, and I do not rate our chances of survival very highly if we are discovered with so little cover and so on. So I think that our size as a party, perhaps, hopefully, will enable us to confront or weather whatever dangers await us in the mountain. And maybe the thing that is a liability across this plain would be of some use if we go into the mountain, so long as we stick together. Tawny?
I'm sure that Inga, given the fact that the last time we were in this area, her horse nearly got eaten, and the fact that she's a dwarf, the mountains are probably much more appealing for her.
Mm-hmm.
So, as for Tawny, he just quotes Hoggle and says, "Me? I wouldn't go either way." But no, he agrees that the mountain is probably the best. But he also kind of reaches back to his pack and holds out a length of rope. We lash ourselves together.
Yep, agreed. Yeah, very good.
Okay, so it sounds more or less anonymous. Anonymous. I was literally looking
I
at
don't
it.
know who you're talking
I was
about.
looking at a word in the book, anonymous. It sounds unanimous, is what I meant to say. Okay, so let us talk then about. Let's see. Just want to make sure that I have the
Dull, sad tales.
blighted places up and ready to go. Got to make sure I got that chambered and ready.
Love to blight those places.
Yeah. Okay. So, I love that it says adventurers will usually only enter a blighted place when they really need to. Yeah. I would say that's.
Whatever give you that idea?
I would say that's fair enough. Okay. So.
Maybe we're trying to make banana bread, and we can't wait for our bananas to go all splotchy.
Okay. So. These are with that. All right.
Can I just shout out the beautiful, like, Utgash fan fiction happening in the chat?
Oh yeah. Like I mean,
Absolutely
this amazing
delightful.
stuff. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Tracks
Love
include
it.
the hits "They Never Really See Me" and "Love in the Waste."
Love in the waste.
It's pretty awesome.
I'm trying to fit that to the Love Boat
Love,
theme.
baby,
He covers it.
Love is a battlefield. We are orcs.
Okay, so, so all right.
No.
And are you setting off immediately? I should say, or are you waiting until the morning for this? Now that you've gotten onto the other side.
Do we need a short rest? We've had one, right? We had a.
Yeah, I would say that it's less of a rest issue and more of a when do you want to try to make the, when do you want to make the begin this traversal point, I guess is the point.
Right. I think we want to. I don't know. Am I correct in saying that we want to go as much in the day as possible for this particular section, for all the good it does us?
As Loverboy said, his people, these because of their inspiration, can see just about as well in the day as they can at night.
Yeah, but
They
therefore,
will still be a little bit less good.
but also we will be a little bit more good, hopefully. Like that, it will be hopefully just a teeny bit more navigable for those of us who don't have night vision like Inga does. But
And Bo, he does too.
yes.
So up to you.
Yeah, I also wonder if this place is one where Tawny wants to be a big spectral bear. No?
He has to be asleep for that.
Okay, fair enough. So, well, if we did a rest, if we did in fact do a rest and you fell asleep, would that be of any help? Could we?
We would have to check with Okatoa. What's his name?
Oh gosh.
Go ahead.
Yeah, him.
Okato.
Okatoa is a thing from Critical Role campaign too. He's the guy that made the Sorcerer's Pact. Travis's character had a Sorcerer's Pact with
I see.
a deep sea entity named Ukito. Anyway, never mind. We would have to talk to Utgash about what sort of things are likely to be ahead, because even though he is a spirit form, he is still a real bear,
Right.
Wandering around, and he will leave tracks and people can see him. And
Right.
if they damage him, that damage transfers to his body.
Gotcha. No, then never mind. I didn't remember about the damage part, so no. So anyway, yeah.
Okay.
The question before us is now: do we stop for a bit or do we continue? We want to be in the daylight as much as possible, right? So which one of the options would give us that?
Oh well, that's up to you. No, you can choose whenever. I mean, assuming you're all doing the mountain path, you would. Right now, it's I would say about 1 in the morning or so. So you'd be either waiting another 6, 7 hours until sunrise if you wanted to go during the day, or you would go now. The moon will probably start to go down in about an hour or two. It's already past the halfway point. So,
Is there a place here where if we did want to wait until more light, that we could do so hidden, or?
Yeah. I mean, there were definitely hidden-ish. I mean, it always feels a little bit exposed. You'd want to go a little bit away from the field that you just crossed out of, with all the gullies and stuff. But but otherwise, yeah.
We could go into one of those caves. Well, no, maybe.
That works out so well for people in Tolkien settings.
Yes.
Always go into caves.
Have you thoroughly explored it? Yeah. Right.
Especially if it's dry and welcoming and
Exactly.
a very nice cave.
Exactly.
You should definitely go and definitely spend the night there. Definitely put your ponies there. Definitely.
Makes sense.
Anyway, yes. I think that if exhaustion is not an issue that we are... My concern is to be trying to navigate a treacherous mountain pathway in darkness when only one of us can see in the dark is not great. So if there is a way to wait until whatever pale, thin gruel-like dawn exists, then that would be good. But also willing to press on. We'll defer to the other team. We'll be right back with from bio break. One sec. Stuff.
So up to you, Bolo and Tawny.
Well, Bolo's vote is to get out of this immediate area, so we're far enough away from that any possible patrol coming across, and then find a some kind of shelter, so we're not seen, so we can rest without being seen by the orcs and possibly the dragon if it's out and about, and then rest and then wait till daytime and then move in the day, so that we have a better chance to avoid being seen by any orc patrols.
Okay, Tawny.
Well, there you go.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Oh, sorry. I was speaking in tongues of many people. It's from someplace way off to the south. You've probably never heard of it. Anyway, as Bolo had mentioned before, we wanted to get to this side of that last, thing before the dragon hunt.
Right.
Score roll was done, and
right.
I think we've definitely done that. And I think that if it is that long until dawn, yeah, it's best for us to go ahead and rest now.
Okay. So then what I'm going to ask for is I'm going to have Bolo as the scout. I'm going to have you make an investigation check to see if you can find a nearby area first that would be suitable for this.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly, Big Boss. You want to avoid being seen with all this mud in our face. Bolo, man, like the freaking rolls have been off the chain today. Yeah, seriously. You realize that next time this means it's going to be 1, 1, 1, 1, 1.
The adventure.
Right. That's right. You have the PlayStation. Not today. So, okay. Yeah, you do find an area which is less of a cave and more of a sort of almost like a three-sided depression in the side of one of these mountains that is covered over as well with like a ceiling, almost overhanging rock. That means that it would be, you'd have to basically be standing in front of it to see it, to see the area where they are.
All right.
So, and when you position everyone there, and it's not super wide quarters, so, Utgash is kind of crouched against one wall. Elston is against the other wall, sort of occasionally starting to polish his shield and then stopping and realizing and then putting the mud back on it, type of thing, and yes. So as the day, such as it is, begins to dawn, we have a couple of checks that have to be made. The first is you are in the Blighted Lands, and thus I will need all of you, including Stone, to make a wisdom saving throw for me, please.
At advantage.
Right, that's at advantage because of why again? Because
of Tawny's weed, what he gave us from before.
The hagweed potion.
Yes.
Oh, right. How long does the hagweed potion last?
1 week.
Okay. Good timing then.
Yes.
Almost like you knew this could happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So let's see this. We'll start. Mal, do you want to get it over with and start with you
yes,
first?
I really do. Okay, so this is a wisdom saving throw. Is what we are doing here.
Mm-hmm.
That's a 14.
River, the passing into this land of darkness and shadow, and the slime and the mud and the dirt, and you just feel the sort of ever-present sense of the dragon weighing down upon you. Maybe he is looking right now. Maybe he's staring at you from some mountain peak. So you do gain a shadow point. You are up to 5.
I hate it.
5 shadow points.
Thanks.
Probably sniffing at what remains of your scent on the harp and starting to drool.
Lol.
I've just about run out of that part.
He uses his tiniest claw to just pick at one of the strings. Ding, 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 ding. Okay.
This one's for Stone, who was a goodest boy, and
That's
he got
true.
an 18.
And he nuzzles against you as if trying to keep your spirits up, River.
I'm here for Inga. Come on, Inga. I took this shadow point, so you don't have to. Here we go. That'll be a 16 for Inga.
That's a good thing. Inga also feels this weight, but is not driven down by it and manages to stay clear. Okay, Tani?
23.
Okay. So you're fine. So that just leaves Bolo. We will talk about in a moment. Okay.
Oshkosh Bagosh probably doesn't care.
Gosh, he's wearing like a gosh line of like overalls,
Uh-huh.
My mom gave this to me.
I'm gonna write to Tari and I'm gonna be like, could you draw a gosh wearing Oshkosh Bagosh and call it
Stop
Gosh
making fun of me.
Bagosh?
I don't wear suspenders.
One half of it is scorched.
Oh my
It's
god!
like a half a sunflower
I heard much
on one
laughing.
side.
Oh no! Is it? So Tren said Oshkosh Bagosh, meaning Utgash.
Gosh, bagosh, and like
I desperately need Tari to make this happen visually. Just put Utgash in some Oshkosh Bagosh.
It's true.
And call it Gosh Bagosh.
Aaron heard that in my brain in the Sesame Street's count 5 shadow points. Okay, Bolo, we need you to make a saving throw, please, against corruption because of the effect of the blighted lands. So far, everyone but the river has made it.
Corruption. Ha!
Natural 20. Very good.
You're just like, I love every part of this. Okay. So everyone is fine.
I'm sort of imagining, just to further give fodder for the fan fiction in the chat, that like as River's soul feels weighed down, Utgash begins to look less like a horrible monster and more like just normal. More like,
Okay.
I don't know, I feel like she's kind of looking around at the landscape and feeling like they are the ones who don't belong, actually, but Utgash does. And something about being covered in mud and being more like the ground and feeling weighed down like this makes her look at Utgash and go, that makes more sense.
Here,
Actually.
especially, yeah.
And Utgash sort of, at one point, because Utgash is sort of near the side of this area, this alcove almost, and goes out to the front, and at one point looks back at you with its terrible expression on its face, and sort of looks up in the fading as the light, the I shouldn't say fading, the gradually increasing light sort of comes in upon them and says,
Soon we must move and take our next steps forward. Until then, you must think like an orc and be like one, to the ground, quiet until vengeance comes.
Wow, the river, you're starting to look kind of hot.
And Utgash like, also, and it says that when the company when one or more members of the company gain shadow points outside of combat, increase the hunt score by 1.
What? Oh no!
Yep. And now it goes up 1 anyway because of the new day. So great.
Delightful.
That's wonderful. Okay.
our hunt
So
score
now the company as a group
is
is going to be rolling a D20 and is going to add the Veil score. Right now your Veil score is 2. Oh, wait a minute. Actually, hold on a second. I take that back. The company is now
Veil score is
traveling through
18.
Darklands. It's actually -2. So, no, I see what I was doing now because I had this one with 2 hyphens. I accidentally added 1. No, what I did was I had it as a negative. Okay, so it's -2. So, in other words, you're going to be rolling a D20. You're going to be subtracting 2. You can have, if inspiration is granted to you, you can gain advantage on this check. And the current hunt score is 5. So you will need to get on a D20 a 5 or above.
Well, a 7 or above. It's -2. Whatever
Well,
we roll.
right, a 5, right, whatever the modified result is, basically is my point.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I would like
one of you
to
can do it.
not roll. I have done too many rolls. No more rolls for me today. I would, however, like to use my last inspiration if that is
Turn.
possible. Despite the fact that it is for our group, but I would still like to do it with someone who is not me rolling. If that's okay.
I was going to say, if it wasn't going to be you using your inspiration, I was going to use mine. So, because I've got 1 left as well.
Yes, but this is the only game that I watched by participating in, so I would just as soon use up mine, and use.
So this means if it's going to be me, Amal, you would have to inspire me, and since I couldn't inspire myself,
Precisely.
I would inspire Bolo if he's the one that's rolling. So,
Okay.
All right, so who's rolling?
I mean, Brad, you've been rolling.
Rudnell
like
says have Brad roll. He's on a
I'm
roll,
sorry.
best chance.
See, that's what I'm worried about.
That's exactly
Oh,
it.
no. Like, right, they've used up the
It
time.
would suck if this is where that streak breaks.
I am saying I'm inspiring Tren. As the person who has done the fewest rolls today.
Okay,
A
Wait.
D20.
He has saved up his luck for this one.
that's true. Let's go with the least data. That's definitely.
So you want a D20, right?
Yes, that's correct. So D20 -2, add inspiration, looking for a 5 or above.
Good luck.
Okay, so I'll write. I don't know how to do that at advantage.
Let's roll 1 and then roll another one.
And we'll account for the math
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah.
So there's a D20, and there's a D20.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Wow. 7. Well, the first one works.
We'll go with the 7.
Yeah, the 7. You needed a 5 and above. You just got a 5 and above. And the shirt rises.
Oh my
Not
God.
today. Okay.
Wow. Wow. Just wow.
Okay. So let us begin this journey. And this is all part of there is going to be an arrival roll. Please remind me about that when we actually get to the watchtower. But we're still part of that same overall journey that we've been in, actually. So as you begin, and as I mentioned, the area here is very, very difficult as you make your way out and up and around. It is very slippery. More than once, one of you slips and painfully bangs your knee on the ground, or your arm gets scratched as a rock that you thought was more secure than it was gives way. It feels almost as if not only have the rocks here become slippery and even more, if possible, sharp and jagged and dangerous than they were before, but also somehow more brittle. So as you're making your way up, like, rocks give way more easily than they should, and it's altogether I would say a miserable experience and journey.
Who would have thought?
Now, what I would like here is I'm going to do, who would have thought this was the case? Now, I'm assuming we're keeping these roles, right? So we have Bolo as a scout, we have the river as the lookout, we have Inga as the guide, and we have Tani as the hunter, yes?
Yes.
So what I would like to do is I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Tani's 1, Bolo's 2, Inga's 3, and the river's 4. And I am going to roll this one publicly so that everyone can see it. We're going to say which one of these people is going to be affected. A 3, which I believe is Inga, I said, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And Inga is the guy.
Affected by.
Affected by in terms of the impact. So about midway up the, so I would say midway during the day, maybe about a little past noon, maybe 1 o'clock or so. Inga, you are all making your way up so that you are roped and so on. And then you hear this, and Inga notices this first, that the ground begins to slip and slide, and she feels her footing giving way. And you see above, to your horror, rocks and boulders are beginning to rattle towards you. So I need the guide here to make a survival check. Now, this is at disadvantage right now, unless something is done to correct that. But otherwise, this is disadvantage as the land itself is shifting underfoot. And this is the guide who has to make this call.
What if she spent her youth playing the Kroll video game where you have to dodge the rocks that are coming down?
That seems deeply in character.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or the Journey Atari game where you have to dodge groupies on your way back to the Scarab. Yeah, no. Sadly, that did not happen, but it would. What a lovely. Let's all think about how nice it would have been if it had. So this is a survival check at disadvantage. Now you can use an inspiration to counteract it, but it's only going to be at regular. The best you're going to get is just a normal check.
Right.
So Effect Life has inspired the guide. All right. Well, the guide has been inspired. Thank you, Effect Life. Okay. So Inga, so I guess this is River. You're doing this, Mal. So this
Just
is going
when
to be.
I thought I was out.
You're going to make. They pull you back in. A survival check. So it's just a normal survival check here.
What we get for roping ourselves together.
Yeah. Well, it would be. Yeah. I think this would probably be worse because then I'd be having all of you make checks, and that only happens if the survival fails. Okay.
21.
Okay, so tell me, Amal, how what this looks like as the land begins to slip. How is it that Inga stabilizes herself, do you think?
I think what Inga does is so she's a wood carver, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
stone
mason.
carver, not wood carver, stone mason.
Yeah, exactly. So what I'm imagining she has is like very, very swiftly, like she's carrying her weapons, she's carrying her tools. I'm imagining that she takes out 2 picks very quick, like something that is for, like, you know, digging into the stone in the first place, and with both hands stabs them into the mountainside, and to stabilize everybody as she instructs everyone to quickly flatten themselves against the face of the mountain, and like so that they are not like bowled off the mountain by the falling rocks, as it were. Yeah, boulders. Yes.
I see what you did there.
So I think that's mostly what she does.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that seems to work, and she is able to hold back as the landslide sort of comes around. So the good news is that at the end of this, actually no, I take that back. You had that check been failed, and the party then failed the subsequent checks, the path would have been blocked. But what actually happens is you stay above the path because of Inga's work here. So you do manage to avoid the worst of it as you are brought down. Nonetheless, although you were avoiding it, and there's a moment where Utgash who is kind of clinging to like an ape with its arm kind of around, manages to hold on, and then and is sort of looking around, and then says, "Down, get down," and like says this to all of you.
Unhooks her things and flattens herself, and River hides herself in stone under the muddy cloak.
And you all are there for probably a good 15 minutes, sort of quietly breathing as the last vestiges of clattering pebbles and rocks kind of go off down the mountainside. And there's a long pause, and then Utgash says, "We have been most fortunate. Let us continue," and sort of rises up and begins to make his way up. Now, right before evening, later that day, I'm going to roll this D4 again. And this time I'm going to discount Inga's roll at this point. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just want to quickly say, because I'm just looking at the time, and do you have a stopping point?
Yes, I do. I do have a thought in my mind. Yes.
Okay.
I'm aware.
He doesn't care, but he's got one.
Yeah. Fair.
I have a stopping point. I'm just going to ignore it. No, I cannot do that. Okay, so.
That is me.
Aha, the river. Okay. So the river who is the lookout. Okay. As the evening comes, and you all make camp, you're about roughly halfway up the mountain that you need to get before crossing over and towards the watchtower. So it means that the camp that you set is in this very precarious area where these weird sort of stunted trees are growing halfway out of the side of the land where you are. And so you basically lash yourselves to this, but it is extraordinarily uncomfortable. Like, just resting normally is not going to happen when you've got these sort of trees set here. But River, probably, I would say maybe about 10 or 11 at night as your companions have drifted off and the moon has not yet risen. I need you to make a perception check for me, please.
At triple advantage.
Ultra advantage.
That's 13.
You are there, I would say, sort of looking out into the land beyond. Sort of your eyes peering into the darkness. And then there is a sound of, "Nah, Mark is nice," not that far from you. And for a moment you think it's Utgash. And then you feel this hand sort of draw you down, sort of the ground. And you can you look over to see it's Utgash, and he is a finger to his lips. And then you look up and you can see several creatures sort of staring and then and running the other way. There are 2 orc scouts, and clearly Utgash was trying to keep you from being spotted by them because he noticed them first. But it's pretty clear that they have spotted you. And as they kind of zip off, Utgash says, "Now things will be more difficult. They will not attack us now, but they will warn the worm. We have more to go, and now they will be on the watch." The hunt score goes up by 2, and we will bring our session to a close. So...
Thanks, I hate it. I hate it so much.
There's never been a moment where we've gone into the Shadowlands, the Darklands, the Blighted Lands, where Amal's ever felt good. Like, this is great. This was a good experience.
Not true. I greatly enjoyed.
Oh, you like the atmospherically? I'm just saying.
No. I specifically enjoyed the weird event that left River isolated with Utgash, and they got to have their side buddy adventure. And stuff. That was great. I was fine with that. Everything else is bad. I don't like it. I do not like it.
I do not like it. So
refuse.
The good news I will say to the party is that you have probably, your guess would be another day and a half or so with one or two more of these journey events before you arrive. So next session we will certainly arrive at the Watchtower, and then you'll have to make a decision about how to get into the Watchtower and then deal with the dragon.
Through the front door.
Yeah,
Wait,
absolutely.
the
That'll be
Watchtower, which we have previously entered through the secret passageway, which we knew about.
That's true, if that same passageway still exists.
The dragon.
Smug has lived there long enough to know all the halls and tunnels and places of this.
But Raynar has not. He is a newcomer to this tower. He's only been there for like 2 years, and he's big. Why would he go and find this thing?
Why would he find all of these secret areas? It'll be interesting to see how that gets managed and how the party's going to deal with. So the hunt score's at 7, and when we begin next time, we will start by a corruption check, and then by upping the score, and then by making the check, and then by seeing whether you can get the rest of the way
This
up.
sucks. I hate this. This is too many rolls. There's too many rolls for one person, and I'm doing them for 3. It sucks.
It's true. Well, hopefully Tari will be back with us, and then it'll just be with 2. But so far it's been fine. You only maced the 1 check for yourself. Like that was.
No, it's been 2 checks. There's the corruption one, and there's failing the perception.
Oh, that's
check.
true. And the perception check you failed just now. Yes, that's true. I take that back. And so you know something that would comfort the river is it singing from Utgash. Is that
that would actually be very comfortable. Except I imagine the song would be, "You fucked up." You fucked up.
Or some like Tom Waits
failed.
waltzing Matilda. You go waltzing, perception fail from me.
No, it'd be the Love Boat theme.
The Love Boat. Why are you using that term right now? I don't know.
And demonetized.
Anyway, right,
Gotcha.
demonetized. Blue Orc state of mind. This was a lot of fun, though. I'm very excited to see what happens as we actually get through that next stage. I understand. Jokes aside, I am fully aware that this is really designed to replicate the experience of the journey, and I think it does very well at doing that. And I recognize that there's kind of this dour, but it so perfectly nails this sense of despair and all that kind of stuff, and yet the party somehow sticking together. Like I still think there's a certain kind of nobility to me in the parties, covered in mud. I think Amal talked about this earlier about the idea that you sort of, as you said, you sort of get it. Like you get why creatures end up the way they do, living in a place like this and coming from a place like this. And I think it's going to make those moments where you are clear, and I promise there will be times where you are not in the middle of Shadow and Blighted Lands, feel all that much more, sweet when you're not there, like whatever happens to you in the future, it'll be like, that's great. We go into some mines. Fine. Is it not a Shadowland? We're on board, whatever you want us to do. So all that. And I will start with Amal. Good work today with the river. There were obviously moments where a lot of tense moments actually, and Bolo kind of took the spotlight for a lot of those checks and things like that, and we'll come to that in a moment. But you also had to make some decisions, and I liked the idea of what you said to Elston, which is like, you're under no illusions that what Elston is saying is from a certain point of view, reasonable and legitimate, but also Utgash is an ally of convenience and has been effective so far. So you have to kind of, I guess, you got to trace that middle ground, I suppose, in dealing with him. How'd you feel about today? Where will the fine folks see you next?
Today was very well designed. What good game design.
Well designed.
Of the people who designed this game. I feel very sad, and that is appropriate. It was very good, well done, awesome. I am fine. I'm so sleepy, actually. But yeah, so good. I really like all of the cool interventions that have been happening and stuff. I continue to really like Utgash and will be very sad when the cursed but inevitable betrayal or whatever happens.
Yeah.
He's just such a cool addition to the party. Narratively, I just enjoy him so much. And I think that's awesome. And yeah, it's fine, it's cool. Where will people see me next? I don't know, guys. Everything is changing in my life. But so like, follow my newsletter. You will soon learn more. But yeah, that's basically it. I don't know, guys. I'm sorry, I'm so sleepy. But I did. I mean, it was harrowing, but I signed up to be harrowed, and therefore, it was fine.
You were appropriately harrowed. This generation's Mork and Mindy, huh, Big Boss? I don't know, like the River and Utgash, Mork and Mindy. I
Oh, I
guess,
just remembered the oh gosh, begosh. I have to tell Tari right now.
that was a highlight. Okay, let's be clear.
That was absolutely amazing.
But thank you, Mel. Always a pleasure, and I am very excited to see how the river handles things next. Even the gaining of that shadow point, I think, was narratively fit as frustrating as I understand that it is.
It's true. I think it makes sense.
Moving right on along the line, though, Brad, I mean, listen, Bolo was just off the chain on the dice rolls. I mean, like, I just every, like, stealth 35, 60 billion, 43. Like, you should have it. You have an overflow stealth. Like, just give some of your stealth to other people. It was pretty crazy. And Bolo had to do a lot of moments where Bolo had decisions to make on his own, you know, mechanically when, for example, encountering the Orc Patrol and stuff like that, where it was all up to him about what he wanted to do and how. So I love the idea, and it reminded me even of Sam and Frodo crossing over, you know, the rocks of Emyn Muil, you know, before he gets into Mordor, and it's like very similar, very rocky and exposed and everything, and there was Bolo trying to crawl across this area in the moonlight. So it was fun to see Bolo go through that, and Bolo obviously has to make some of those decisions because the guide really is important. You know, the scout really is important in this. So it was pretty important that Bolo, that your roles were on point today. How'd you feel about today, and where will the fine folks find you next?
Yeah, I feel like Bolo when he was looking down at that area they had to cross, and he's like, "It's my time."
Yep,
Right?
yep, my time
like,
to shine. Yeah,
yeah.
and leaving
And
Flankseer behind too, and everything. Like, you know.
Yeah, so that was fun. And like this approach, it sort of reminds me of like this notion of like shells, layers of defenses, you know. So we have the Zarakan that we're trying to head towards, and then there's like, you know, like layers of defenses that we have to go through. The waste itself is a defense mechanism in a way, right? And then the gorge, the orcs, you know, the dangers that are around this place. And so it's kind of cool to sort of be working through those one at a time until we get to, you know, the yoke at the middle kind of thing. So it's cool, as you know, we're and also appropriately the danger is ramping up, you know, as we get closer and closer to the end here. So that's cool too. So it's, you know, it's building up the anticipation for the final confrontation. So yeah, this is cool. And I also do like not just Utgash, but Lord Elston too. It's like, you know, devil and saint kind of thing on our shoulders. Like, you know, trying to figure out.
They are they are definitely on opposite sides of wherever the group is, right? Like they are not.
And you know, and it, you know, provides some interesting contrast, you know, between our past, you know, and where we're headed and stuff like that. So that's cool too.
Yeah.
So so looking forward to the next few adventures. Hopefully we can get there. And I miss Tari. Hope she's back soon.
Same.
So where people can find me. So I do have, I've mentioned in the past, a couple of classes coming up on Lit Reactor. So if one goes to litreactor.com and searches for my name, Bradley Bollier, you will find now 2 classes up there. One starts mid-September, the other one mid-October. And so they're kind of geared for the Neo-Pro, someone who has probably started their journey in writing, but is looking for some tools to help them along the way, to refine their their skills. And if that describes you, take a look. Or if you know people that are looking for that kind of thing, other writers in their journeyman phase, send that to them and take a look. And if you like it, please join.
That's good stuff. And I will add a plug, which is that, of course, I've had a chance to see Brad's work on things like this, whether it's at workshops at Gen Con or workshops that he and I participated in some years ago or whatever. So Brad's very good at this, and I would highly recommend that if you're in that state of neo-proness that Brad talked about, that you should check out Lit Reactor and should check out Brad's work. So thank you, Brad. Good stuff today, and look forward to our next session and seeing what Bolo gets up to. We will have, again, Terry back with us. Hopefully, our hope is we'll have Terry back next month. And when that happens, you'll have a chance to see Inga's take on everything played by Inga. But in the meantime, you can find Tari at TariToons, TariToons, on, I believe, definitely on Twitter, and she has a Patreon as well and things of that nature. So you should definitely check out that work and support Terry in her journey forward. Last but certainly not least, of course, Tren. Again, good stuff from Tani. I do love the idea that everyone's just like, Spirit Bear, Spirit Bear. You're like, now's not the time. Now's not the time. There will be a time when the Spirit Bear is going to be, and then that moment will be glorious. That will be a,
we'll all be like, bear,
exactly.
Tony's gonna be like, I can't sleep with you doing that.
We want the bear. We were shut up. So it's
I
gonna
wonder
be.
if we can make it spontaneously appear while he's sleeping. If we just like go around him and then just start whispering, bear, 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 bear.
Waving honeycomb under his nose.
honey.
A ghost honeycomb.
It's a salmon run, salmon. Like that kind of thing. But it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see when that happens. But in the meantime, of course, Tani is going to. Tani's healing is going to be necessary. And of course, one of the other things I don't think we talked about is the fact that, if I'm not mistaken, we've talked about the hagweed, which is, I think, got another 4 days left or something of usage, something like that, 3 to 4 days.
How many days have we been in so far?
Because we've been in, when you started the waste, you probably about 4 days now, I would say. I don't know when you gave it to them, but you entered the waste about 4 days ago.
It was as we were entering.
So yeah, you have about 3 days left. So it'll run out just in time for the dragon. That'll be great. But also the honey cakes, I believe. Are you not?
5 left.
5 left. Okay. So yeah, so we'll see about the exhaustion issues and how that all happens. How did you feel about today's session? Where will the fine folks find you next turn?
Today was just, aside from the curse of a Mal's dice, and for all 3 sets of rolls.
Do you know what? Actually, sorry to interrupt you. Literally, I'm pretty sure the last shadow point was also earned on a mid roll, so it was 14 doesn't cut it, right?
Right.
I think I rolled a 14.
You did.
And today
14
I rolled
doesn't cut it.
14. I can't remember 14 or 13. But anyway, both cases is
It was almost there. Yes,
Yep.
That's true. That's true.
But yeah, I thought just delightful, wonderful. I always loved seeing Bolo when he kind of has to sneak off and do stuff on his own. It's just, I love it. And remember, we have 2 people with night vision. We have Inga and Bolo. They can both see in the dark.
Right.
Because you keep saying we've only got 1 person. It's like, no, we have 2.
It's true.
Part of me was worried that we were going to have to take the gully that we went through the first time we went through, but the gorge.
Yeah.
Now that it's all slushified and everything, and just see a bunch of orcs come running out of the thing. It's like, where are all the trolls that were here before?
Well, that image of all the frozen stuff, and you just get there, and now it's just a smoking, that idea of a false spring is just, not so good. I don't know, I always feel this way a little bit with what they call the Indian summers of December or January or something like that. It never, there was one a couple years ago where it got to 75 in February on a single day, and then it went back to normal.
All the time.
But for those of us who don't live in California, but that it just felt wrong. Everyone's like, oh, what a lovely day. I'm like, yeah, but it shouldn't be happening on February 3rd. This just wrong. And I think that's kind of the feeling I had for this too. But anyway.
Yeah, but I very much enjoyed today, except for the few rolls that didn't quite go the way that we would hope that they would go. But hey, it was still fun. As for where people see me next, probably, unless you can hack my camera and watch me while I sleep, which I'm about to go and do, because I'm switching over to my nocturnal schedule, because I have nothing on the on the docket for the rest of the month. I don't have any stuff with I&B. We don't have any more of this stuff. We've got Euroference going on in Germany. We've got Burning Man going on. So basically, most of my friends are out of town, so we're not doing in-house D&D on Sundays. So I'm just going to switch over to a nighttime schedule, record all the BattleTech I can, and then whenever we show up back here again will be the first time that people see me again next month sometime. I don't know when.
Yeah, and Big Boss wants to know, where can we hear you next?
Where can you hear me next? Well, the easiest thing for that, since, as I mentioned at the top of the show, today is the 2 anniversaries of things that I did. It's the 8-year anniversary for the Keepers of the Light Paw Pet show from Euroference from 8 years ago, which is why it's the 8th year anniversary. If you go to my Twitter feed, you'll find that I put the YouTube links for the show on there. It's like 2.5 hours long, so enjoy it. And then the other one is the 1-year anniversary of the release of an animation that Zachariah Hansen hired me to do the voice of a bear named August, who's fishing at a place called Rapture Lake, which is the name of the animation on YouTube. And that's the next tweet after the one for Euroference. So that's anniversaries for those 2 projects today.
Good stuff.
Tomorrow is BB Wolf's birthday.
Oh, very cool. Well, happy birthday to BB Wolf, former our vocalist. So good stuff. Well, thank you, Tren. And thank you to the wonderful players as usual for another wonderful session. And I will see you folks back here. We will be posting schedule stuff probably early next week is when I'll look to set up a schedule for September. We'll get in 2 sessions this time. And we will...
Remember?
Do you remember? I just saw that song being sung by them, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Recently.
Yeah, that's right.
It was great. But thank you so much to our players. Chat, can we get some love for the amazing players of Trendane Sparks, of soon to be back with us, Tari Tunes, of Brad Bullier and Amal Elmatar. Thank you, players. Wonderful work. I'll see you folks soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye for now. All right. And that is going to do it for us for the moment, although only for the moment, because we have a lot of stuff that we are going to be doing first. One thing is that we've got other streams coming up, of course, including over on GOG. But also, I just want to point out that we are finalizing nominations on this. So the Chat Chosen Game of the Month, I'm going to be playing this next Tuesday. And so we're finishing this right now at the end of this session. So if you would, please, for to very nicely, thank you, do the vote for the Chat Chosen Patreon Fueled Game of the Month. And there are 3 options. We have Citizen Sleeper, we have Whispers of a Machine, and we have Typo Man. So now is the time to get your vote in. And this has been a very close vote all the way through. So now is the chance to get your vote in on what it's going to be. And when we get done with me talking about what's happening today, I will close that down. So while I'm in the process of letting you folks finish up with your votes there, again, I want to thank everyone for watching. And remember, later on today at 4:15 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be over on GOG's Twitch channel with Pen and Pixels and with D&D with GOG Ghosts of Saltmarsh, which has been really great too. And we're moving into a new phase of that adventure, by the way, which is Danger at Dunwall. Not Danger at Dunwall. Danger at something. I need to look at it again. I'm getting Dunwall confused with something else because that's Blades in the Dark. Anyway, Danger at something, you'll see. But that's going to be coming up later on today at 4:15 p.m. Eastern. And then back here tonight, remember, at 9 p.m. Eastern, we are going to have the amazing Our Vocalists with the conclusion of Purgatory, which is, of course, a game that we've had a lot of fun with over the last couple of months. This will also be the last chance to be able to see Little Arv for a while because Little Arv starts school next week, and so she will not be able to stay up late on Tuesday nights doing this anymore, at least not through the school semester anyway. So this is your last chance to get your fill of Little Arv for more than just a cameo appearance. That'll be happening this evening, so you're going to want to see that as well. As far as the games are concerned, Citizen Sleeper. So Whispers of a Machine is basically, this was Echo's suggestion, I believe, was Whispers of a Machine, and it is an AI... it's a point-and-click AI game, I believe is what it is. Citizen Sleeper is a game that Mike Turbo Tango has been playing on his channel, and that also, I think, has some like cyberpunk elements, but it's more role playing with some strategy involved. And then Typo Man is the one that I believe Effect Life voted for. And yeah, that's right. Oh, you did. Yeah, you did. That's right. Hold on. Effect Life actually sent me this. So here is the description. Right. So Typo Man is a puzzle platformer, follows a hero named Hero to craft words to alter the environment around him, which seems like a lot of fun. Whispers of a Machine, that was Echo's nomination. That's a sci-fi Nordic noir that tells the story of Vera, a cybernetically augmented detective in a post-AI world who investigates a string of murders and unravels a dark conflict over forbidden technology. And Turbo Tango voted for Citizen Sleeper, role-playing in the ruins of interplanetary capitalism, live the life of an escaped worker washed up on a lawless station at the edge of an interstellar society, inspired by the flexibility and freedom of TTRPGs. Explore the station, choose your friends, escape your past, and change your future. We might even do that as an our vocalist thing down the line, potentially. So Citizen Sleeper is role-playing. Whispers of a Machine is more like point-and-click adventure-type stuff in a cybernetic world. And then Typo Man is a puzzle platformer using words to craft the environment. Thank you very much, Effect Life, for those explanations. So there we go. We've got Typo Man with 4 votes, Citizen Sleeper with 4 votes, and Whispers of a Machine with 3 votes. So I will need someone to break this tie, please. I will need someone to break this tie between those top 2. Typo Man, Citizen Sleeper, Whispers of a Machine. Get your votes in now. Get your votes in now or forever hold your peace. And then remember, we've got Ghosts of Saltmarsh. And then we've got... why did my lights just turn on? That's weird. Oh, because we may have had an electrical thing. That might have been why. Okay. That's interesting. Okay, so I just figured out why that actually was. Because we have an electrician doing some work around the house. That's why. So there we go. So 4 votes. We've got great. We've got 4 votes each. That's wonderful. So we now have you've spoken it into existence, Triffid, in the universe. So we've got 4, 4, and 4. So we need someone to vote for one of those to break that tie, please. 4 votes for Whispers of a Machine, 4 votes for Typo Man, 4 votes for Citizen Sleeper. So if we could get one person to break this tie, please. The next vote basically I think is going to win it. Whispers, Typo Man, or Citizen Sleeper. 1 vote. 1 vote. Citizen Sleeper is the winner. And with 5 to 4, Citizen Sleeper wins. All right. So there we go. Citizen Sleeper is the winner. That is what I will be playing next week. I know that Turbo Tango loves this. For those of you who wanted Typo Man or Whispers of a Machine, fear not, because you will get your chance in a future month. So I will be doing Citizen Sleeper next month. So that should be good times. Or next week, I should say. But otherwise, I'm going to rise up on out of here so I can get ready for the next D&D session on GOG coming up in just about 40 minutes. If you like what you saw and heard, please make sure to follow the channel. Please check out our YouTube with !ArvTube, and please subscribe to me over there. I would really appreciate that. Our Discord channel is !ArvCord. Twitter is !ArvTweets. Website is arvanelleron.com. Financially, of course, we have got !ArvTrayon. That's the Patreon. !ArvShop is the merchandise area where you can get stuff for Infinity and Beyond, Adventures of Middle-earth, and soon we're going to have some Expedition for the Mysterious Peaks up there as well. So we've got that. And then we have also got, there we go. And then we have also got, of course, subscribing to the channel, which allows you to support the channel as well, get those custom sub badges and emotes and all that stuff to use everywhere across Twitch. That would be much appreciated as well. And of course, on the publishing side, Icarus, my Icarus graphic novel from, yes, the voting is done and the game is chosen. It is Citizen Sleeper Echo, which barely edged out Typo Man and Whispers of a Machine. But Citizen Sleeper is supposedly really good, according to Turbo Tango. And Whispers of a Machine and Typo Man both almost won and can be renominated next month, remember. So, yeah. So Icarus, right. And then Then we've got, that's Icarus. Then we've got the exclamation point Icarus. We've got exclamation point Greyshade, which is my Greyshade novel, which was released on May 31st from Athos Arts. And that link will let you join the backer kit, where you can pre-order Renegade and Heretic, the 2 sequels to Greyshade, where you can also do the get the audiobook from Tren, where you can also get the RPG, which is going to be on its way from Alligator Alley. All of that can be done through that backer kit link, so please do that. And of course, exclamation point Library, which is Tales and Tomes from the Forbidden Library, my 5e adventure and source book from Alligator Alley Entertainment. Very happy to see more of that going as well. So that's what we've got going on with that. Last but certainly not least, exclamation point BLM, Black Lives Matter. Again, very important to affirm and assert the significance and importance of Black lives. Exclamation point Help Now is the World Health Organization page on suicide prevention. Very important to reach out to others when you need help and to reach out to others when they need help as well. And exclamation point Ukraine, which is to help the people of Ukraine as they fight back against an illegal and illegitimate war, and is to give us a chance to help them as they fight back in the best way they can against this devastating conflict. Otherwise, I'm going to see you lovely people over on GOG.com in just a bit. Thank you to my wonderful mods, Rudenell, Emily the Honored, Hillness, Triffid. As always, great pleasure. You folks are lovely and wonderful people. Thank you as well to my Patreon supporters and subscribers, Rudenell, Emily, Hillness, Triffid, Effect Life, Echo, and Trendane, and also Amal, and also, I believe... Yes, and that those folks are all there. And my viewers, we have Big Boss, Craigery, Arenth, Jagtress, Lock Haley, Lanaray, Little Rory, Sarasa, Nonstop, Riot, Xylane, and Zim. Thank you so much for all of you lovely people supporting the Patreon and the subbing to the channel and all that other good stuff. I really appreciate that. And as always, of course, I want to thank my players. Thank you to Tren, thank you to Brad, thank you to Amal, and again, hopefully we will have Tari back with us next month. But that's going to do it for me for the moment. I will see you folks over here in just a little over a half hour over on GOG for some D&D with GOG Ghosts of Saltmarsh. More Adventures in Middle-earth to come, of course, next month. Otherwise, I'll see you folks back here pretty soon. And for the moment, everyone, be good to each other. Bye for now.